All right, folks. Well, welcome to our reading of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. We're going to be breaking down the cast list here. So, starting us off with our action description tonight, we have, where's she at? Perfect. We had Angi. I'm going to cover the role of Eddie Valiant, taking over, well, for the lead tune for our film, Mr. Roger Rabbit himself. Where's he at?
That's me.
Fantastic. His co-star, we have Baby Herman. Fantastic. As the Roadster, Benny. Fantastic. There he is down there. As Foghorn Leghorn, along with a few other cartoon characters. Fantastic. We got Elly down there. As head of Maroon Cartoons, we have Mr. R.K. Maroon.
Hey there. No business like show business.
There you go. And, of course, his main competitor in the field, we have Mr. Marvin Acme. Where's he at? Perfect. Now, can't forget Roger's lovely wife, Mr. Jessica Rabbit.
Hi, guys. I'm here.
Perfect. Don't worry, we got some fun stuff with that. Coming up with the Weasles. Where y'all at?
I'm here.
Perfect. Just the collective Weasles. I love it. As Dolores. Lovely, rocking down there. As Angelo. Charlie, perfect. All right, doing a quick check. And as our cigarette girl and Miss Betty Boop.
Boop, boop, boop.
And of course, lest we forget our villain for the piece, Mr. Judge Doom.
Hello, Mr. Valiant.
There we go. Loving it. All right. Well, this is the third draft of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So, Angi, if you would like to take us on out.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Working title, Who Shot Roger Rabbit? Written by Jeffrey Price and Peter S. Seaman. Based on the novel by Gary K. Wolfe. Third draft, September 2nd, 1986. This movie starts the way all movies should, with a cartoon. It's not a Disney or a Warner's. It's not a Fleischer or an MGM or a Lands. This is a lesser-known studio. Fade in on a Maroon cartoon. Accompanied by zany cartoon music, the title card reads, Maroon Cartoon present Baby Herman and Roger Rabbit in The Bunny Sitter. Below are two cameos of the cartoon stars. One picture is of a cherubic baby in a bonnet, innocently posed with his thumb in his mouth. The other is of a paunchy rabbit with a gap between his front teeth. He has a lovable, if slightly shell-shocked look. The cartoon begins. Baby Herman and Roger Rabbit are in a playpen when two female legs in high heels walk into frame. The voice belonging to the legs talks down to Baby Herman in a maternal coo.
Going to the beauty parlor, darling, but I'm leaving with your favorite friend, Roger. He's going to take very, very good care of you. Because if he doesn't, he's going back to the science lab.
Roger gulps as he watches the legs disappear. We hear footsteps recede and a door slam. Roger turns confidently back to his charge, but the little tyke is already squeezing through the playpen bars.
Bye-bye.
Roger makes a dive for him, misses, and gets his head stuck between the bars. He pleads with the baby in a voice that resonates of Hunt's Hall in The Bowery Boys.
Hey, come back! You heard what your mother said.
Baby Herman ignores Roger. We follow him as he crawls into the kitchen. He stops to regard something that has caught his attention. A cookie jar. It's sitting on top of the refrigerator. Roger, wearing the playpen like a pillory, comes running toward the kitchen, but the playpen is too wide to clear the door. The impact shattering the playpen and sends Roger sprawling across the kitchen floor. When he looks up, Baby Herman is swinging precariously on the door of the freezer.
Hang on, baby! I'll save you!
Roger makes a desperate leap across the kitchen for the kid, but Baby Herman swings the door to the freezer open and Roger disappears inside. Baby Herman grabs a cookie and swings back, shutting the door. He climbs down and crawls out of the kitchen. After a beat, the freezer door opens. Roger, now shaped like a block of ice, falls out and hits the floor. The block shatters into ice cubes. Roger looks around, dazed. Baby Herman has taken this opportunity to crawl out the window. Roger races to the window. His eyes pop out of his head at what he sees. Roger's point of view. Baby Herman is crawling along the sidewalk under the shadow of a safe being hoisted onto the second-floor window by the Acme Safe Moving Company. The rope holding the safe is fraying down to a slender thread. Roger gasps and rockets out the window toward Baby Herman. The rope snaps. Safe falls. Roger arrives just in time to pluck the baby out of harm's way, but not in time to save himself. The safe crunches down on his head, burying Roger into the sidewalk. After a beat, Roger's hand appears and spins the tumbler. The safe door opens. Inside, we see the dazed rabbit with little twirling birds circling his head.
Cut, 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 cut!
The cartoon action stops abruptly, and the goofy cartoon music plays on. We begin a slow pull back to reveal that this cartoon is being filmed live on a soundstage. The title card sits on an easel. The female legs are papier-mâché props manipulated by two human crew members. Warily, they lean on the legs up against the stage wall. A human director, wearing a tweed jacket and a baggy pleated pants, steps onto the set. From the equipment and the dress of his crew, we can tell it's the 1940s. Baby Herman throws his cookie down in disgust. He talks in a gravelly voice, an octave lower than Wallace Berry's.
What the hell is wrong with that tape?
Nothing wrong with you. You were great. You were fantastic. You were better than great. It's just Roger keeps blowing his lines. Hey, can we lose the playback?
The music suddenly stops as, off on the side, the sound man lifts the needle off a phonograph record. The director leans over Roger and angrily plucks one of the birds circling his head.
What's this, Roger?
A tweeting bird.
That's right, a tweeting bird. But what does the script say? Rabbit gets caught. Rabbit sees stars, not birds. Stars!
For crying out loud, Roger. I'll be in my, how many times we can do this damn scene? I'll be in my trailer, taking a nap. Good nuts.
Page. Okay. Baby Herman pulls himself up to his full height of 2 feet and walks off the set. He chooses a route that takes him under the dress of the script girl. She jumps as if goosed. Now 2 crew members lift the safe off Roger.
Please, Raoul. I can give you stars. I know I can. Just drop the safe on my head one more time.
I already dropped it on you 23 times.
Don't worry about me. I can take it.
I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about the safe.
Continued pullback. What we've been seeing has been from the point of view of a man in a shiny brown suit standing unobtrusively at the back of the soundstage. Under a beat-up fedora is a craggy face that's seen a lot in its life, but apparently didn't think much of it was funny. Eddie Valiant takes a jolt from a pint of whiskey, evidently in reaction to what he's seen. He opens his coat and returns the pint bottle to a shoulder holster which had formerly held a .38. Nerves steadied, he walks out the stage door. Exterior, Maroon studio, day. Valiant emerges from the stage onto a bustling Hollywood studio lot where cartoon characters, tunes, and humans are commingling as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Valiant stops by an Acme novelty truck, which is unloading tune props. There are bombs, rockets, flattened pocket watches, anvils, giant slingshots, etc. The license plate is California 1946. He fishes out a pack of Chesterfields and taps half a butt that had been stubbed out. As he lights it, Valiant regards a chubby, balding man wearing a 3-piece suit and a worried expression coming towards him. He is R.K. Maroon, studio boss. Maroon is leading an entourage of assistants trying to keep up.
Starting tomorrow, there'll be no more roast beef lunches. What happened to cheese sandwiches? I was raised on cheese sandwiches.
As the assistants dutifully record his thoughts, Maroon sees a guy taking a nap in the shade of a palm tree.
And tell that guy sleeping over there he's fired.
It's your wife's brother, okay?
Oh, tell him he's promoted. But get him out of my sight.
As the assistants disperse, Maroon approaches Valiant.
Valiant, did you see the rabbit?
Yeah, he was blowing his lines all right. So what?
So what? He already put me 3 weeks behind on the shooting schedule.
Now an Edith head type hustles up to show Maroon several costume signs. Your reaction, RK? Maroon quickly checks out the drawing.
No, that's not funny.
She flips another drawing.
That's funny. Put a Horberg on it, it'll be even funnier. Huh, Valiant?
He grabs the pad and shows Valiant. The rendering is of a hippo in a pink polka dot tutu.
Yeah, it's a riot.
Maroon responds to Valiant's sarcasm with raised eyebrows.
Boy, I hope what you have ain't contagious or I'll be out of business.
He hands the pad back to the designer, who departs.
How much do you know about show business, Valiant?
Only there's no business like it. No business I know.
Valiant watches an alligator in a rebel uniform dragging a brace of cannons and several toadstools parade by.
Yeah, and there's no business as expensive. I'm 25 grand over budget on the latest Bunny Sitter cartoon, and it's all because of that rabbit. He can't keep his mind on his work. And you know why?
One too many safes dropped on his head?
Nah, that goes with the territory. He's a stunt bunny.
Maroon takes a copy of The Hollywood Tattler out of his pocket.
Here's the problem. Seen cooing over calamari with not-so-new sugar daddy was Jessica Rabbit, wife of Maroon star Roger. His wife's a tramp, but he thinks she's Betty Crocker. The doubt's eating him up.
So what do you want me to do?
Give me a couple of juicy pictures, something I can wise the rabbit up with.
I don't work in Toontown.
You don't have to. The rabbit's wife sings at an underground tune review joint called the Ink and Paint Club. You can catch her in action there.
Job's gonna cost you $100.
$100? That's ridiculous.
So's the job.
Valiant starts to walk away.
All right. You got your $100.
Maroon turns, snaps his fingers. His assistant appears out of nowhere with Maroon's checkbook and a pen. The assistant turns and stoops so that Maroon can write the check on his back.
50 now, 50 when you deliver the pictures.
Maroon tears the check off and hands it to Valiant. Suddenly, Valiant ducks in reflex to a large shadow that passes overhead.
Kinda jumpy, aren't you, Valiant? It's just Dumbo.
Above their heads, Dumbo swoops back and forth, then hovers, ears flapping like a hummingbird.
I got him on loan from Disney.
Aren't you the lucky one?
Valiant grabs the check from Maroon and starts for the gate.
When will I hear from you?
Soon as humanly possible.
We follow Valiant out the gate under a wrought iron sign that reads Maroon Cartoon Studios. As he starts across the road, he's almost run over by a Toon Roadster that roars out of the gates. When it blasts its horn, it's the first 5 notes from the Woody Woodpecker song. Ha 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 ha. Valiant jumps back as the Roadster passes, Woody the Woodpecker's behind the wheel with a self-important smile on his face. Valiant angrily waves the cloud of Toon dust away.
Damn Toons.
Across the street, a trolley car is slowing to a stop in front of the studio. It's a Pacific and Electric red car, part of the vast system of electric trolleys that once crisscrossed the LA basin. Valiant steps onto the red car. He reaches into his pocket to give the conductor his nickel fare, but he comes up with a handful of lint. He holds out the check.
Say, what do I look like, a bank?
The conductor jerks his thumb toward the door. Valiant suffers the public humiliation of having to step down past the rest of the boarding passengers. He walks around to the back of the red car where a gang of 10-year-olds are loitering. When the bell sounds and the red car starts to pull away, the kids make a dash for the place on the cowcatcher. Valiant joins them. We hold as the red car moves away and the street urchins regard their older partner in crime with curiosity. Dissolve to a billboard sign. It reads, LA's Pacific and Electric Red Car, America's finest public transportation system. Pan down to see that the sign is on the roof of a trolley's terminal. The red cars are going in and out of the shed. Move in on one car approaching the terminal from down the street. As it passes by, Valiant hops off his freeloader seat on the back.
So long, mister.
So long, mister. Sorry. Got distracted.
Valiant waves laconically.
Thanks for the cigarettes.
We follow Valiant as he crosses the street to a seedy bungalow. A note is push-pinned on the door. Close, note. It says, tomorrow's Friday. Well, Dolores. Valiant takes the note and walks back across the street toward the terminal. He climbs up a flight of stairs, heading for the bar on the mezzanine. The bar sports a red neon sign that used to blink, the Terminal Station Bar, but now it just says Terminal. Interior Terminal Bar Day. The place must have been pretty swanky at the turn of the century when it was built, and the first burst of enthusiasm over the new public transportation system. It's in the motif of a trolley car. There's a large map on the wall above the bar showing all the different lines. Behind the bar is Dolores. If you scraped off all the makeup, you'd find an attractive woman in her late 30s. She ministers to a ragtag assortment of Hollywood lowlifes who are truly at the end of the line. Valiant enters this den. He lets his eyes adjust for a moment, then bellies up to the bar. He finds a spot between a one-armed black soldier and a midget stretched out on the bar, passed out. Now a trolley rumbles underneath them. The bar starts to shake like an earthquake. The lights flicker. All the drinkers, observing a time-honored ritual, lift their glasses simultaneously to avoid spilling any drops. Even the midget lifts his head until the trolley has passed. Valiant reaches over to the bar and blind grabs a bottle of rye he obviously knows is there. He pours himself a shot.
Hey, fellas. What's the good word?
Lost my job.
An arthritic cowboy pipes up.
Mule Dad.
A deaf mute scribbles a note on a pad hanging around his neck. He hands the note to Valiant. It says, "My girl dumped me." Valiant pats him on the back, consoling.
You know what they say about dames, Augie.
Then Valiant mouths the rest of it for Augie's benefit only. Augie reads his lips, then starts to roar silently, slapping his thigh. Now Dolores makes her way down the bar. She grabs the midget by the suspenders and slides him out of the way.
So, making dame jokes, huh, Eddie? Well, let me remind you, pal, it was a dame who took $100 out of the till so your landlord wouldn't throw you out of your dump, and it was a dame who trusted you for the money when no one else in town would, and it's a dame who's tired of waiting for you to straighten yourself out and get a job.
Would this be the same dame who's going to feel awfully foolish when she finds out I've got her money?
Valiant slides the check across the bar. Dolores studies it. She calms down a little.
This is $50. I need 75 before they check the books tomorrow.
You'll have it in the morning. Now, be a sport and let me have $20 to put in my pocket.
Is this paper even good?
Check the scroll.
Okay, Maroon.
Now Angelo, a Neanderthal sitting a few stools down, is tapping the shell of a hard-boiled egg.
Maroon? Valiant, don't tell me you're working for a tune. Who's your client? Chilly Willy or Screwy Squirrel?
Angelo chuckles at his own joke and goes to eat his egg. Suddenly, Valiant darkens. He grabs Angelo by the shirt, pulls him up to his face.
Get this straight, greaseball. I'm not working for a tune. I never work for a tune. Got it?
Valiant jams the whole egg into Angelo's mouth, turns, and storms out the door. Angelo sputters and spits out the egg.
What's his problem?
Tune killed his brother.
Exterior Ink and Paint Club, night. Valiant knocks on the door of a nondescript building in a rundown factory area. A speakeasy-style peephole slides open, revealing the face of a Toon gorilla. Valiant offers the password.
Walt sent me.
The peephole slides closed, and after a beat, the door swings open. Interior club. The gorilla, dressed in a tux, gives Valiant the once-over. Valiant resents the assessment.
Nice monkey suit.
Wise ass.
We follow Valiant down the hall toward the main room. We can hear laughter and zany music from within. Interior main room. When Valiant steps through the doorway, we see the place is no dive. It's a white tablecloth nightclub on par with the El Morocco or the Garden of Allah. Behind the bar, a caterpillar bartender is using his many arms to shake and pour several drinks at once. Meanwhile, a dozen penguin waiters are gliding back and forth along the tables, serving drinks to the well-heeled crowd. On stage, Donald Duck and Daffy Duck are seated opposite each other at matching grand pianos. What begins as a decorous duck duet on a Tchaikovsky piece, complete with knuckle-cracking, seat-spinning preparations, quickly accelerates to a loony game of one-upsmanship between these two irrespecable ducks. There is a keyboard-stomping, lid-banging, piano-wire-plucking zaniness. The audience is howling. People are wiping tears from their eyes. They're laughing all so hard. All except Valiant. He lights a cigarette impassively, not humored by the tune hijinks. He spots an empty table off to the side and makes his way toward it. A silly geezer in a loud suit is at the next table. The geezer nods to him soberly as Valiant pulls out the chair and sits down. A loud, flatulent sound erupts from under Valiant. The geezer slaps his thigh with the hilarity of it all.
Would you listen to that? It's a pip. I'm thinking of calling it the whoopee cushion.
Valiant reaches under himself and comes up holding a deflated rubber bladder. The geezer retrieves it from him.
No hard feelings, I hope. Put it there.
The geezer grabs Valiant's hand before he can say no. We hear a buzz. Valiant retracts his hand as if shocked. The geezer howls with laughter and turns his palm to Eddie.
Hand buzzer, real casa.
Valiant rolls his eyes and grabs a penguin as it glides by.
Scotch.
There's a 2-drink minimum.
Just as long as there's no maximum.
Waiter, I'll sign my check now.
The penguin pulls a bill down on the geezer's table and zips off. The geezer takes out a fountain pen out of his jacket and writes on the bill. But there doesn't seem to be any ink coming out. He shakes and shakes the pen to get it flowing. It flows all right. Ink splatters all over Valiant's shirt and pants. Valiant looks down at the stain, doing a slow burn. The geezer starts laughing. Valiant jumps up and grabs him by the lapels.
That's it for you, Pops.
Now calm down, son. Look, the ink is gone.
Valiant looks down at his shirt. The stain is gone.
See? It disappears.
Well, why don't you make like the ink?
Valiant drops him onto his chair and returns to his seat. The penguin glides up with his drinks. Valiant swallows the first one with a quick jerk of his head. On stage, Donald and Daffy's piano competition has reached a crescendo of mayhem. They've got the axes out. With the music, they reduce their pianos to matchsticks. At the completion of the piece, they stop to the front of the stage and with great decorum, arms around each other, they take their bows. The curtain comes down to great applause. We hear sound effects of crashing and bashing backstage. Now from behind Valiant, we hear a familiar, high-pitched voice.
Cigars? Cigarettes? Eddie?
Valiant turns to see Betty Boop standing with a box of tobacco wares strapped around her neck. In contrast to all the other tunes, Betty's in black and white.
Gee, it's swell to see you, Eddie. We miss you in Toontown.
Wish I could say the same. What are you doing there, Betty?
Work's been slow for me since the cartoons went to color. But I still got it, Eddie. Boop, boop, ba-doop, boop.
Yeah, you still got it, Betty. Who's Mr. Jocularity?
That's Marvin Acme, the gag king.
Yeah, I should have guessed.
He comes here every night to see Jessica Rabbit.
Big on musical comedy, huh?
Sounds like you've never seen her, Eddie.
Now the lights dim and Betty moves on. On stage, the dour Droopy walks out with the spotlight following him. He's the evening's MC.
Hello, everybody. I hope you're all having as much fun as I am. I have a small announcement to make. Jessica Rabbit will not be able to sing tonight.
There's a roar of disapproval from the men in the crowd. They shower him with debris.
I was nearly jesting. Without further ado, here's Woman Times 2, Toontown's own chanteuse par excellence, Jessica Rabbit.
There is excited applause as the lights dim. A tune combo made up of crows in shades strikes up into the smoky song, Why Don't You Do Right? A spotlight hits the curtain. Now a curvaceous leg pokes out, teasingly. The crowd goes wild as the rest of the body belonging to the leg emerges. Jessica Rabbit is a generously endowed redhead bombshell. She's a humanoid too. In her case, more beautiful than human. Her figure is testimony to what a guy can do with a pencil and a fertile imagination. Reaction Valiant. This is not quite the bunny he expected Roger to be married to. His jaw drops, and his reaction is mirrored all around him in the room. The men are panting so hard you couldn't keep a match lit. Close up, Jessica, as she steps up to the mic.
You had plenty money, 1922. You let other women make a fool of you. Why don't you do right like some of the men do? Get out of here. Get me some money too.
Jessica takes the mic and comes off the stage. Slinkingly, she wanders among the tables, teasing the men as she goes. Now there's a howl from behind Valiant, a Tex Avery-type toon wolf who came masquerading as human, couldn't help but show his true colors at the sight of Jessica. He howls as if it were a full moon. His tongue rolls out of his head, and it piles up on the floor like so much clothesline. His eyeballs telescope out of his head, and finally, the wolf levitates and snaps rigid like an open jackknife. As the wolf makes a rush for the stage, the gorilla bouncer grabs him by the suspenders. The wolf, legs spinning madly, practically knocks Valiant's table over as he grabs at Jessica. But the wolf has come to the end of his suspenders. He snaps back toward the gorilla, who is holding an anvil in front of the suspenders. Clang! The wolf hits the anvil and slides to the floor. The gorilla calmly whisks him into a dustpan and carries him out. Jessica, like all good saloon singers, has continued her act, undaunted.
Why don't you do right like some of the men do?
She sashays over to the geezer's table. Teasingly, she swirls the wisps of white hair onto his head into a Dairy Queen. He giggles gleefully and makes a grab at Jessica, but she slips out of his grasp like mercury.
Get out of here. Get me some money too.
Now Jessica works her way over to Eddie. She stops at his table and sings tauntingly. Then with a flourish, she throws herself into his lap and belts out the finale.
Why don't you do right like some other men do?
There is a raucous applause when she finishes. Jessica looks deep into Eddie's eyes.
Thanks very much.
Before Eddie can reply, she jumps off and slinks off stage, leaving Eddie a pile of human wreckage. Valiant slugs the rest of his drink down to put out the fire in his libido. When the lights come up, Valiant looks over to where Acme is slicking down his eyebrows and patting his hair down. He stands, picks up a bouquet of roses from the chair beside him, and as he passes Valiant's table, gives him a big wink. Valiant watches Acme disappear backstage. He stands, drops a couple bucks on the table, and follows after him. Backstage. Valiant steps past the curtain, keeping a discreet distance. He follows Marvin Acme down a corridor and around the corner. Acme stops and knocks on a dressing room door. After a moment, it opens and Acme goes inside. Valiant checks over his shoulder, but the backstage area is empty. He eases over to the door and puts his eye into the keyhole. Point of view through keyhole. Jessica is seated at her dressing table. Acme is on his knees next to her, kissing his way up her gloved hand, eyes closed in ecstasy. Jessica takes her hand out of the glove and starts combing her hair, leaving Marvin kissing a suspended tuned glove. Angle on Valiant. While he continues his peeping, The gorilla bouncer sneaks up behind him.
What do you think you're doing, chump?
Who you calling a chump, chimp?
The gorilla smiles sadistically when he recognizes Valiant.
Oh, it's the comedian.
The gorilla grabs Valiant by the belt and lifts him off the ground. He opens the fire door and heaves Valiant out. Exterior, alley, night. Valiant comes flying out the door and crashes into a bunch of garbage cans in the alley. The gorilla stands in the doorway regarding the dazed Valiant.
And don't let me catch you peeping around here again. Got it?
The gorilla slams the door. Valiant picks himself up out of the garbage. He brushes himself off, then starts down the alley toward the rear of the building. We follow him around the corner, where he stops under Jessica's dressing room window. He drags over a milk crate and stands on, takes a small camera out of his pocket, and opens the bellows. He stands on the crate and aims the camera through the corner of the window, as we hear the muffled conversation from within.
Are we going to play patty cake tonight?
Marvin, I have a headache.
But Jessica, you promised.
Oh, all right, but this time, take that hand buzzer off.
Valiant's eyes widen in disgust
Jesus Christ.
as he starts clicking pictures. Cut 2. Exterior Maroon studio, late night. There's one light on in the administration building. Interior Maroon's office, night. It's a large Art Deco office with walls covered with photos of Maroon and various celebrities, human and tomb. R.K. Maroon is seated behind his desk. Standing nearby is Valiant. They are both regarding an hysterical Roger Rabbit who's holding a set of 8x10 glossies. He's wailing and crying, Toon tears flooding off of him in a torrent.
Patty cake! Patty cake!
Baker's man, but no use running a good pair of shoes over it.
Angle on rug. Roger's tears have formed a puddle around the desk. Valiant lifts a well-worn Oxford and shakes the water off it. Maroon hands Roger his handkerchief. Roger augas his nose.
Take comfort, son. You're not the first man whose wife played patty cake on him.
I don't believe it. I won't believe it.
The pictures don't lie. Mr. Valiant here took them himself.
Roger takes another look at the pictures. Close photos. There's shots of Jessica Rabbit and Marvin Acme seated knee to knee, caught in the act of slapping palms, really playing patty cake. Back to scene. Maroon gets up and crosses to a bar table set up by the window. He pours a drink from a crystal decanter as Roger starts sobbing again.
But Jessie, she's the light of my life, the apple of my eye, the cream in my coffee.
Valiant eyes the booze longingly as he mutters to himself.
Yeah, well, you better start thinking about drinking it black.
Frankly, I'm shocked. Marvin Acme's been my friend and neighbor for 30 years.
Maroon gestures out the window. We see a blinking neon sign on the roof of the building across the street. Acme. If it's Acme, it's a gasser.
Who would have thought he was the sugar daddy?
Maroon turns and carries the drink to Roger. Meanwhile, Valiant slides over to the bar and helps himself.
Well, the important thing now, Roger, you got to put it all behind you. Drink this, son. You'll feel better.
Roger takes the glass and shoots it down in one gulp.
I know this all seems painful now, but you'll find someone new, won't he, Mr. Valiant?
Eddie has just picked up the decanter to pour one for himself.
Oh, yeah. Good-looking guy like himself. Dames will break his door down.
Close, Roger. The booze is taking its effect. There's a rumble-like volcano about to erupt. Suddenly, Roger's head turns into a tomb of steam whistles shrieking. The high pitch causes glass objects in the room to shatter, including the crystal decanter that Valiant's holding in his hand. It explodes, soaking his suit with booze. Valiant looks down at the damage, completely exasperated.
Son of a bitch. Mr. Maroon, I think I'm gonna go now. So about the rest of my fee?
Sure, Valiant. Sure.
Maroon sits at the desk and writes a check.
Being experienced in these matrimonial matters, you have any advice for our friend here?
Valiant crosses to the desk and takes the check.
My advice? Hop on over to Reno. Get yourself a quickie divorce.
Divorce? Never!
Suddenly, Roger jumps onto Maroon's desk and grabs Valiant by the lapels.
Marriage is a two-way street, and we're just experiencing a detour. Jessica and I are going to get back together, and we're going to be happy. HAPPI!
Roger zips up the desk and crashes out the window, leaving a rabbit outline in the glass, backlit by the blinking Acme sign. Maroon and Valiant walk to the window and look out the rabbit-shaped hole in the window.
At least he took it well.
Interior Valiant's bungalow, close. Empty booze bottle, early morning. Pull back to reveal the bottles on the floor next to the couch Valiant's passed out on. He's still dressed in his clothes. Pan the small studio apartment. In the kitchen alcove, Valiant has created a makeshift darkroom. We see a curtain on a clothesline, various trays and some pictures clipped to a clothespins. The pictures depict Jessica Rabbit and Marvin Acme in various states of patty cake. Now there is a loud pounding on the door, but it doesn't break through Valiant's subconscious for several seconds. Finally, he rouses, gets up, and walks a crooked line to the door. Valiant opens it and squints into the excruciating sunlight. When his eyes focus, reveal a hangdog police detective holding Eddie's morning paper.
Lieutenant Santino. How you doing?
Santino ignores the question and regards Valiant with a mixture of disgust and pity.
Tell me you didn't do a snoot job for a tune named Roger the Rabbit.
That's what you woke me up for?
Santino flops the morning paper. Valiant's eyes narrow as he reads it. The headline screams, "Tune kills man!" And underneath, Marvin Acme murdered at the hands of jealous rabbit. Santino throws the paper on the sofa.
You got trouble, Eddie.
Exterior Acme factory, day. An LA police car turns into the yard of the Acme factory and pulls up in front of the old factory building. There's all kinds of official activity in the yard. Cop cars, a coroner's truck, etc. Valiant and Santino get out of the police car. Santino starts into the factory, but he realizes Valiant's not following him. He turns to see Valiant looking over the wall behind the factory, transfixed.
Now what?
Just haven't been this close to Toontown for a while.
Valiant's point of view. The sky above the wall is a different color, a little bit more vibrant, a toon blue, you might call it. Santino walks back and takes Valiant's arms.
Let's go. Somebody wants to see you.
Santino leads Valiant into the factory. Interior factory, day. It's a large warehouse filled with stacks of toon gags, boxes of dynamite, giant slingshots, boulders, everything you've never ever seen in Roadrunner cartoon. Santino stops where a large black safe is embedded in a cockeyed angle in the floor. A forensic team is at work around the safe. They're chalking the outline around a body half obscured by the safe.
They say the rabbit got the safe idea from a cartoon he was making the other day.
What a gasser.
Wait here.
Santino walks to Acme's glassed office, where a sobbing Jessica Rabbit is being interrogated. We can only see her, not the person doing the interrogating. Valiant slides over to where the forensic guys are dusting the photographs he had taken for prints. One of the forensic guys looks up from his work.
Hey, didn't you used to be Eddie Valiant?
Valiant ignores the slings and arrows and surveys the scene of the crime. The door of the safe is ajar. Valiant tries to look inside. Forensic number 2 closes the door with his knee. Now we hear the voice of Jessica Rabbit from behind them.
Mr. Valiant?
Valiant turns to the voice. Whap! Jessica slaps him hard enough across the face to make his head turn.
I hope you're proud of yourself.
She turns on her heel and storms off, sobbing into a handkerchief. Valiant, rubbing his jaw, looks after her. So do the forensic guys.
She likes you, Valiant.
When they drew her, they broke the pencil.
Now 2 white jackets from the coroner's office start to carry Acme out on a stretcher. As they pass Valiant, a hand still wearing a hand buzzer flops out. Valiant grabs it, stopping the stretcher.
Makes you wonder what in the world she was doing with a guy who didn't clean his fingernails.
Close hand. Embedded under the fingernails is a reddish-brown substance.
So, it's blood.
Valiant peels a piece of it off. It ships and falls to the ground. He squats to examine it.
It's not blood. It's paint.
Suddenly, the end of a cane comes down on Valiant's hand, pinning it to the floor. Valiant follows the cane up to its gavel-shaped head, past black pants, a black robe, to a cadaver-like, complected face, and a large, hooked proboscis. The head is shaved. Rimless, tinted glasses obscure the eyes. Although he's human, the total appearance is frighteningly vulture-like. Judge Doom is accompanied by Santino.
Is this man removing evidence from the scene of a crime?
No, Judge Doom. Valiant here was just about to hand it over. Weren't you, Valiant?
I'll take that.
Doom takes his cane off Eddie's hand and reaches out for the paint chip. Valiant palms a piece and drops a smaller piece in Doom's hand. Doom examines it.
Looks like the deceased grabbed a handful of your client's pantaloons, Mr. Valiant.
Valiant stands up to face the judge, who towers over him.
He's not my client. I was working for RK Maroon.
Yes, we talked to Mr. Maroon. He told us the rabbit became quite agitated when you showed him the pictures and said nothing would stand in the way of him getting his wife back. Is that true?
Hey, pal, do I look like a stenographer?
Watch your mouth, Eddie. He's a judge.
Doom smiles thinly at Valiant, turns and walks with purpose toward the door. Santino and Valiant follow.
The rabbit's movements are fairly clear after leaving the Maroon studios. He ran across the street, jimmied this door, hoisted the safe on a block and tackle.
Exterior Acme factory. Doom leads him outside to indicate a window.
Then stood out here waiting for his prey. After he cold-bloodedly accomplished his task, he went home. He was almost apprehended by my men.
Doom nods his head toward a group of sinister weasels, a la Disney's Wind in the Willows. They're loitering by a dog catcher's wagon with Toontown Control on the side, cleaning their fingernails with switchblades and polishing Toon revolvers.
Men? They look more like weasels to me.
Yes, I find the weasels have a special gift for the work. The rabbit didn't contact you by any chance, did he?
Why would he contact me? I just took some lousy pictures.
So you wouldn't have any idea where he might be?
Have you tried Walla Walla? Cucamonga? I hear Kokomo's very nice this time of year.
Doom steps into Valiant's face.
I'm surprised you aren't more cooperative, Mr. Valiant. A human has been murdered by a Toon. Don't you appreciate the magnitude of that? My goal as judge of Toontown has been to rein in the insanity, to bring a semblance of law and order to a place where no civilized person has ever been able to step foot. The only way to do that is to make the Toons respect the law.
Suddenly, a Yah-ha-hooey interrupts his pontification as a scruffy little Toon gopher comes hurtling over the wall from the Toontown side. He's holding his blackened rear end, apparently the result of a run-in with a stick of dynamite. Bonk! The gopher hits Doom in the back of his head, setting them both sprawling. The gopher picks himself up and shakes off the effects of the concussion. When he sees who he's knocked down, he panics.
Judge Doom! Yeah, let me get that for you.
He whips up a clothes brush out of his back pocket and furiously tries to clean the judge's cloak. Doom picks up the gopher by the scruff of the neck and gets to his feet.
Why, you filthy little vagrant, you've soiled my robe.
It's cleaning up real good, Judge.
You've defiled a symbol of justice.
As Doom carries the gopher to the Toontown control wagon, Valiant shoots a look at Santino.
Where'd this gargoyle come from anyway?
No one knows. He bought the election a few years back. He's been ruling Toontown ever since.
When Doom gets to the wagon, the weasels open up the back. In place of steel bars is a stream of fluid. A weasel turns a key and the flow of liquid stops. The gopher starts kicking furiously, trying to avoid the lockup.
Oh no, Judge. Please let me go. I think I hear my mother calling me.
Finally, the gopher breaks free and makes a desperate dash for the wall. Doom watches him run and calmly turns to where his car is parked. It's a black Lincoln touring car with an ugly bird-like hood ornament.
Voltaire, the gopher.
Suddenly, the hood ornament squawks to life. It's a hideous tuned vulture. The vulture flaps into flight. Just as the gopher is about to make it over to the top of the wall, the vulture's talons sink into his rear end and lift him airborne. The vulture drops the gopher off with the weasels. They pin him down.
Hey, don't I have any rights?
Yes, you do. To a swift and speedy trial.
One of the weasels retrieves a briefcase from the sedan, puts it on the hood, and snaps it open. 12 tuned kangaroos pop out, arranged into a jury box.
Court is now in session.
He raps the gopher on the head with the gavel end of his cane.
The defendant is charged with vagrancy, assault, and resisting arrest. How do you find him?
The kangaroo court delivers the verdict instantly. 12 little kangaroos pop out of each of their mama's pouches, holding up small cards, each with a letter spelling Y-O-U-A-R-E-G-U-I-L-T-Y.
Guilty as charged. Case closed.
Doom slams the briefcase shut. He turns his attention back to the gopher.
I hereby sentence you to the dip.
Oh no, not the dip. Anything but the dip. I'm too young to die.
As the judge pulls on a black rubber glove, the weasels take out a stainless steel tub, wheezing with a sadistic glee. They fill it up from the spigot on the truck.
What's with the dip?
That's how he gets rid of the troublemakers. It's a combination of acetone, turpentine, and paint remover. He calls it the final solution.
The gopher is wriggling and screaming bloody murder as Doom lifts him up and holds him over the tub. Then, as he's lowered into the solution, he starts to disappear. His pathetic screams are snuffed mid-yelp. The gopher's gone. All that's left of him is a paint slick on the surface of the liquid.
Jesus.
Doom pulls off the black rubber gloves, finger by finger, and hands them to a weasel. He turns to Valiant.
They're not kid gloves, Mr. Valiant, but that's how we handle things in Toontown. I would think you'd appreciate that.
He gets into his car. He pauses and looks back at Valiant.
After all, didn't a toon kill your brother?
Interior Terminal Bar, day. Dolores is behind the bar cutting lemon peels and preparing for the day's bartending. There's one early customer, a gray-haired trolleyman in his red car uniform. His hat's on the stool next to him, and he's already drunk. The door opens. It's Valiant. He walks over to the bar, reaches for a bottle and shot glass, and helps himself. Dolores picks up a copy of the morning paper.
Hey, Eddie. Looks like you really stepped in it this time.
What are you complaining about? Here's your $50.
Valiant slides a check across the bar.
Well, 35 years, and all I got to show for it is a ticket punch.
What's that, Earl?
A new outfit bought the red car. Some big company called the Cloverleaf Industries.
No kidding. Bought the red cars, huh?
Bastards put him on notice.
Valiant picks up his glass, lifts it in a toast to the trolleyman.
Here's to the pencil pushers. May they all get lead poisoning.
Now the trolleyman unsteadily climbs up his stool to get close to the Holy Grail, the red car route map over the bar.
Oh, the old number 6 line. Who'd have thought they'd close that one down?
Eddie, get him down from there. He's gonna break his neck.
Eddie grabs Earl around the legs and throws him over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes. He carries him over to a booth and puts him down carefully, covering him with a tablecloth.
Took you right to Toontown, it did.
I know. Poor SOB.
Valiant walks back to his drink at the bar.
Do you think the rabbit did it?
I don't want to think. I want to drink.
Take that around.
Valiant and Dolores look down at the bar, but there's no one there. Finally, the familiar cowlick of baby Herman rises to the top of the bar as he clambers up to a bar stool.
We don't serve formula, schnookums.
You serve martinis, don't you?
Yeah.
Baby Herman slides his baby bottle down on the bar to Dolores.
Make it dry. Baby doesn't like it to be wet. You're Valiant, right? Name's Baby Herman.
Yeah, I know who you are. Kind of out of your neighborhood, aren't you?
Yeah, I had to go slumming. See, a friend of mine's been framed.
You mean the rabbit? They got him cold.
Don't believe that. I mean, the guy's an idiot, a moron, a complete fool. But he never killed anyone. I know the guy.
Dolores brings baby Herman his baby bottle cocktail.
Gangsta.
When Dolores turns around, baby Herman pats her on the bottom.
Oh, ladies' man, huh?
My problem is I got a 50-year-old lust and a 33-year-old dinky.
My problem is I come here to drink in peace, so if you don't mind.
Come on, Valiant. Does this whole thing feel a bit funny to you? I mean, no offense, but how did a muckbug like Maroon find you in the first place?
Yeah, Eddie, it's not like you got an ad in the Yellow Pages.
Thanks for the vote of confidence.
And another thing, the paper said no will was found, but every toon knows Acme had a will, and in it he promised to leave a Toontown to the Toons.
So where is it then?
Somebody took it from him. That's what this whole thing's about.
The papers said the safe door was opened, Eddie.
Stick the stuff in olives, will you, Dolores?
My hunch is it was Maroon. He always was after Acme's property.
Yeah? Does he wear pants this color?
Valiant takes the paint chip out of his pocket and dangles it in front of baby Herman.
No, but neither does Roger. That's Diablo Red. Roger's pants are Sunrise Orange.
Well, I'll be.
So, what's your next move, Valiant?
My next move? That's easy. I'm getting up, I'm walking out the door, and I'm going home to bed.
Valiant stands.
So you're not even going to bother to find out if the rabbit's getting framed?
He's a toon, who cares?
Baby Herman shakes his head sorrowfully. As Valiant heads for the door, Dolores wraps her towel down on the bar.
Well, you used to care, Eddie, and it didn't matter if client's skin was black, white, or painted.
Valiant ignores her and walks out the door. Interior Valiant's house, day. Eddie comes in the door with his coat over his shoulder. He tosses the jacket over the chair and walks to the Murphy bed. He grabs the strap and, loosening his tie, walks away from the wall, pulling the bed down. What he doesn't see is Roger Rabbit asleep in the bed. Valiant, still with his back to Roger, sits down exhaustedly on the bed and kicks off his shoes. He lies back and pulls the covers over him. He closes his eyes, rolls over to get comfortable. Now he and Roger are nose to nose. They both open their eyes at the same time. They freak. They both jump out of bed.
What the hell are you doing here?
I needed a place to hide. I'm in trouble, Eddie.
So I hear. Even talking to you could get me a rap for aiding and abetting.
Don't worry, Eddie. No one knows I'm here.
Oh, yeah? How'd you find my house?
Well, I asked the newsboy on the corner. He didn't know. And then I asked the janitor, the fireman, and finally the greengrocer down the way. He was very helpful.
In other words, the whole goddamn world knows you're here. Out! Get out!
Eddie tries to open the door, but Roger blocks it spider-like, arms and legs extended.
Please, Eddie, please don't put me out. I didn't do it, I swear.
Valiant gives up trying to open the door and grabs Roger. He pulls and he pulls. Finally, Roger snaps off like a broken rubber band. The two of them go tumbling backward. Valiant makes a grab for Roger, but he slips out of his grasp like Quicksilver.
Sure, I wanted to win Jessie back, but not that way.
Valiant lunges again. Roger dodges.
After I left you, I went to see her at the Ink and Paint Club.
Valiant picks himself up and tries to catch his breath.
She was on stage, so I found a piece of paper and wrote her a love letter.
Roger pulls a piece of paper out of his pocket and starts reading.
Dear Jessie, how do I love thee? Let me count the ways. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000.
Valiant leaps for Roger and gets him by the throat. He rips the paper out of Roger's hand and crumples it up and throws it down. He opens the door, throws Roger outside, and quickly slams the door shut. He leans against it, breathing hard. Suddenly, Roger comes through the mail slot like a limbo dancer. Valiant, too tired to chase him, just watches him.
Hey, that wasn't very nice.
He retrieves the love letter, straightens it out, and puts it back in his pocket.
It took me almost an hour to compose that, but I decided not to leave it anyway. I'd read it in person. That was my plan.
Valiant crosses to the kitchen area where the dark room is still set up. He opens the cabinet under the sink and comes out with a bottle of scotch. He takes a shot glass and pours himself one.
Look, pal, if you're still here when I finish this drink, I'm calling the cops.
Went so far.
Can't hear you, Seth.
Don't do that! I'm innocent, I tell you. The police will just tip me. They were waiting for me when I got home last night, so I ran.
If you're so innocent, why'd you run?
Gee, Eddie, I'm a rabbit. We always run.
Valiant shoots the drink down and holds up the empty glass.
That's it.
He crosses to the phone on the counter. He lifts the receiver and starts to dial.
Well, this is the moment of truth. And I've spoken the truth, but you won't believe the truth. So I guess the truth is my goose is cooked and my hash is slung. My fate is accompli.
As Valiant finishes dialing, he idly puts the empty shot glass down on a photograph on the counter.
Won't anything change your mind?
Valiant turns from the pleading rabbit. Now something he sees on the counter gets his attention. Point of view through shot glass. The shot glass is resting on one of the reject pictures of Acme and Jessica. The bottom of the glass is magnifying the back of the exuberant Marvin Acme. Sticking out of his back pocket is a legal folder headed, Last Will and Testament. Close, Valiant. He looks as if the truth has just hit him in the face.
The goddamn will.
LAPD.
Valiant slowly returns to the phone to the cradle.
You mean you believe me?
Now outside, we hear tires screeching to a stop. Roger runs to the window and pulls back the drapes. His eyes bug out of his head.
It's the tune control!
Valiant comes to the window and looks out too. Valiant's point of view. The tune control wagon has stopped in front of the house. The Weasles pile out. One of them takes what looks like a butterfly net out of the back. Several others grab violin cases. Eddie and Roger. Valiant jerks Roger back behind the curtain.
Get away from the window.
Roger, elated, jumps into Valiant's arms.
You're gonna help me? How can I ever thank you?
He plants a big, wet tune kiss on Valiant's lips.
For starters, don't ever kiss me again.
Exterior bungalow. The Weasles are filing up the walk to the front door. The leader pounds on the front door.
Open up in the name of the law. Police.
Interior bungalow. Valiant puts Roger down.
Look, I'll talk to him. Just find a place to hide.
Roger zips to the closest door and goes inside.
Not in there. It's the first place they'll look.
Valiant goes to the closet and opens the door. Reveal Roger is now dressed in Eddie's trench coat and hat. Playfully, Roger snaps one side of the handcuffs onto Eddie's wrist. He's got the other attached to one of his wrists.
Eddie Valiant, you're under arrest. You idiot. I don't have the keys for these cuffs.
Boom, boom, boom. The knocking is more impatient. Valiant looks to the door.
Open up!
Exterior Valiant's door. The Weasles open the violin cases and take out real Tommy guns and shoulder them in teams of two. Suddenly, they unleash a torrent of machine gun fire, making the outline of a weasel in the door with bullets. The leader blows on the cutout and falls in. The Weasles file through one by one. Interior apartment. The Weasles don't bother to look around. They all just start blasting. Bullets fly in every which way. The barrage destroyed Valiant's apartments in a matter of seconds. When the shooting stops and the smoke clears, the Weasles look around. The head Weasel spots blood all over the kitchen floor.
We got him.
But when he looks behind the counter, it's only a shattered bottle of ketchup. Exterior, rear of apartment. Eddie and Roger, handcuffed together, are beating it down the alley. Roger, being a rabbit, is beating it a lot faster. He's kicking up dust with his legs ablur. Valiant stumbles, trying to keep up. When they round the corner, Roger slams into the brakes, tune style. Valiant goes skidding past him and is jerked to a stop like a dog on a short leash.
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
Sorry, Eddie. I forgot you're not a toon.
Don't ever forget that.
Exterior bungalow, back window, the Weasles. Come piling out of the window. They start sniffing the ground. Suddenly, one of them freezes on point, like a dog. Another blows a hunter's horn, and they're off on the trail. Exterior street, Eddie and Roger. Emerge from the alley. They pause momentarily to reconnoiter. Eddie decides to go left, Roger right. When they go to the end of the cuffs, they snap back to a pile. Valiant gets back to his feet and hauls Roger up angrily.
This way, goof.
They start across the street, but Roger goes on one side of the street sign, Eddie the other. Roger coils around it like a tether ball. Valiant yanks Roger off the sign and they duck across the street just as the trolley car passes. The Weasles come bloodhounding around the corner. They search the street signs for the fugitive, but when they get to the trolley tracks, they stop, bewildered.
Looks like the scent's cold.
He points toward the trolley car pulling into the terminal station. They fall all over themselves, scurrying over to the trolley. They surround it and jump aboard, Tommy gun at the ready. Interior red car. The conductor raises his hands like it was a holdup. A couple passengers scream as the Weasels search the car, but no Roger or Eddie. As quickly as they got on, they get off. Exterior red car. As it pulls away, the Weasels look around, perplexed.
Funny. I could swear I smelled a weapon.
Angle from above. Eddie and Roger are balanced on the trolley wire above the Weasels' heads. As the Weasels sniff around the barn, Eddie and Roger ease along the wire using the wall of the terminal bar to lean on. Interior, terminal bar, kitchen. Dolores is preparing corned beef and cabbage. The radio is playing Mares Eat Oats. A newscaster breaks into the music.
Newsflash, Hollywood, California. Citywide tune hunt for Roger Rabbit. Suspect in Acme slain. Police describe him as short, cuddly, and psychotic.
Dolores turns just as Roger's grinning face appears in the window.
Mother Mary!
Now Eddie's face comes into view. He motions for her to open up the window. Outside the window, Roger and Eddie watch another trolley approach. The contact arm sparks its way along the wire as it rolls along toward them. Valiant watches as Dolores struggles to get the window open.
Hurry, hurry.
At the last second, the window opens. Eddie jumps for the sill, Roger dangling from the cuffs as the trolley passes. Interior kitchen. Dolores helps pull Valiant through the window, then he drags Roger inside.
Jesus, Eddie, is this who I think it is?
Dolores, meet Roger Rabbit.
Roger bows at the waist, takes her hand, and kisses it like Charles Boyer.
Charmed, enchanted, pleasures all mine.
Where'd you find him?
Toon Fairy left him under my pillow.
Now Roger spots a plate of freshly shucked corn.
May I?
Before she can answer, he grabs an ear, presses it to his lips, and applies the typewriter method to it. When he gets to the end of a row, we even hear the bing.
He's a riot.
Oh, yeah? Well, you're not handcuffed to him. Anybody in the back room?
It's all yours.
We follow Dolores as she leads Valiant and Roger across the hall. She stops at a door, unlocks it, and leads them in. Interior back room. It's a tiny storage room office with an institutional metal desk, a cot, and assorted janitorial supplies stacked around. Dolores shuts and locks the door behind her. Valiant goes to a metal locker and digs through some tools, coming out with a hacksaw. He sits on the cot and starts working on the cuffs.
So you decided to help him after all?
I'd have my head examined. Will you sit still?
Roger quiets like a child for a moment as Valiant saws feverishly. Then Roger slips his hand out of the cuff and holds his side while Eddie keeps sawing.
Does this help?
Yeah, it's better.
Valiant saws a couple more strokes before the realization of what Roger's done hits him. His face darkens. Roger sees the look and sheepishly tries to recover by sticking his hand back in the cuff.
You mean to tell me you could have taken your hand out of that cuff at any time?
Well, no, not at any time. Only when it was funny.
Valiant looks at Roger like he's about to brain him. Roger pulls his hand free again and cowers out of range. Valiant just rubs his forehead.
Are you always this funny or only on days when you're wanted for murder?
My philosophy is, if you don't have a sense of humor, you're better off dead.
Yeah, well, you might just get your wish.
Can you get him out of it, Eddie?
If I can find out whoever wanted to kill Acme bad enough to get this.
Valiant throws the patty cake pictures down on the table. Dolores and Roger both examine it closely.
Acme's will.
So that's what this little drama is all about.
Yeah. I think Maroon plays the part of sound mind and your wife a sound body.
I resent that innuendo. My wife is completely innocent.
Your wife may be a lot of things, pal, but innocent isn't one of them.
So what's the scam, Eddie?
Yeah, maybe Herman was right. Somebody wants Acme's property. Cack the old man, pin it on Roger, and destroy the will.
The habeas corpus is thickening.
Yeah, except they screwed up. I don't think they got the will.
Well, how do you know that?
Well, Acme had the will in his pocket the night in the club. It was gone in the morning when the cops found the body.
Maybe they just took it out of his pocket.
Then why'd they bother to crack the safe? You can drop a Ulster 90 from Mount Baldy and it won't open.
Well, Mr. Smarty Pants Detective, your logic is spacious. What prevented Mr. Acme from putting the will back in the safe before they killed him? Mm-hmm.
Because he's not 40 feet tall. The safe was up on the ceiling, remember?
Dolores whistles over his deductions.
Oh, well, Eddie, you still got it. Hey, tomorrow maybe I'll go down to the probate court and see who sniffed around Acme's estate.
Yeah, do that. I'm gonna go rattle Maroon's cage.
Valiant finishes sawing the cuffs. He stands and throws the cuffs aside. Valiant and Dolores go to the door. Roger follows them eagerly.
What should I do? Who should I see? Where should I go?
Valiant turns.
Nothing, no one, nowhere.
He slams the door. Interior, polo lounge, close, Maroon. He's in a booth in the middle of the business lunch.
Maybe money grows on trees in Toontown, but not at the Maroon studio.
Widen the shot to reveal that Maroon's sharing a booth with Bugs Bunny and his agent. Bugs is chewing on a carrot.
Look, Doc. Fiduciary considerations aside, Roger Rabbit may have been willing to play second banana to an ankle biter, but I ain't.
Across the room, a maitre d' is leading Valiant and Augie, the deaf-mute, to a table by the door.
This'll be fine, huh, Augie?
Augie nods his head. They sit and pick up menus. Augie takes one peek and looks at Valiant, alarmed. He scribbles a note. Valiant reads it.
Forget the prices, pal. If you want a shrimp cocktail, have a shrimp cocktail. Excuse me, Augie, I've got some table hopping to do.
Valiant gets up from the table and starts across the room, at Maroon's booth. I think you should know, RK, we're in negotiations for Bugs to star in his own series at Warner Brothers.
Trying to scare up a bidding war between me and Jack Warner, eh? Well, it won't work. I'll call William Morris and I'll have him put out a rabbit call the likes of which this town's never seen.
Yeah, it's your dime, Doc.
And stop calling me Doc.
Yeah, sure, Doc.
Now Valiant arrives, pulls up a chair from the next table, and sits down.
Hey, Mr. Maroon. Remember me?
Valiant, what are you doing here?
I just thought I'd drop by and show you a photograph.
I already seen your photographs.
Yeah, but I enlarged this one. Thought you might be interested.
Valiant takes the enlargement of the patty cake shot and puts it on the table in front of Maroon. We can clearly see the will sticking out of Acme's pocket.
Anyway, enjoy your lunch.
Valiant stands and departs, but his visit has done its trick. Maroon looks like he's seen a ghost. We follow Valiant across the room to his table, where Augie is blissfully attacking a shrimp cocktail.
How is that, Augie? Pretty good?
Augie nods enthusiastically. Valiant keeps an eye on Maroon's booth. Now he nudges Augie as Maroon excuses himself and goes into the phone booth just outside the door. Augie puts his shrimp fork down and picks up his pencil. Augie's point of view. We see Maroon talk on the phone, MOS. His lips move. Valiant supplies his words.
It's me. Valiant says there's a will. I don't know what he's trying to pull.
Back to scene. Valiant is reading off Augie's pad as Augie reads Maroon's lips and scribbles down what he says.
Somebody's gonna have to take care of him.
Augie looks up from his scribbling to exchange an eyebrow-raising glance with Valiant. Then he turns back to Maroon again.
The old man's had it at the club that night. That's right. Yeah, I'm sure I'll be there.
Augie stops writing as Maroon hangs up the phone.
Where?
Augie shrugs his shoulders. Disappointed, Valiant lights a cigarette. Now Augie elbows him and gestures across at Maroon, who's making another call. Augie starts writing again.
Iris, cancel my appointment this afternoon. I'll be at Forest Lawn.
Maroon hangs up the phone and comes out of the phone booth. He hustles out of the room. Valiant stands.
Did great at Augie. Have another shrimp cocktail.
Valiant drops 20 on the table and pats Augie on the back. Exterior, Beverly Hills Hotel. A car hop wheels a yellow Packard up in front. Maroon climbs in and roars off. Valiant enters the frame. He looks after Maroon, then calmly starts walking down the driveway. Exterior, Forest Lawn Cemetery, red car stop, day. A red car pulls up. Valiant climbs off. He calmly crosses the street and ducks behind the cemetery entranceway as Maroon's Packard roars through.
Love that red car.
As Valiant starts to walk up the hill, cut to the Acme funeral site, long shot, day. A hearse and a line of black limos are parked in the lane. Nearby, Marvin Acme's funeral is in progress. Clustered around a gravesite are the mourners, tunes of every stripe. There's Mickey Mouse comforting Minnie, Tom and Jerry, Heckle and Jekyll, Chip and Dale. Everyone from the famous to the not-so-famous is in attendance. The eulogy is being delivered in a familiar, blustery southern voice. It's Foghorn Leghorn.
Today we'll commit the body of Brother Acme to the cold. I say cold, cold ground. We shed no tears, for we know that Marvin is going to a better place, that high in the sky. I say high, that high, hilarious place up in the sky.
Foghorn Leghorn dramatically points skyward.
Amen.
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 New angle, Valiant, is leaning up against a palm tree on the hill. We've been watching the proceedings from his point of view. Now he sees Maroon's cars pull up. He moves around to the other side of the tree as Maroon passes and starts wending his way through the crowd. At the gravesite, Foghorn Leghorn nods to the funeral director, a pasty-faced human in a black mourning coat. The director starts to turn the crank, lowering the coffin into the ground.
Give us a sign, Brother Herman, that you've arrived.
Much to the funeral director's amazement, the crank starts plinking out the tune of Pop Goes the Weasel. Now the tune mourners pick up on it and join in.
Round and round.
Chase the weasel.
The crank and songs start going faster and faster.
The monkey raising on fun. Pop goes the weasel.
Suddenly, half of the lid to Acme's coffin flies open and a harlequin clown boy-yoings out. The funeral director faints dead away as the tunes sob into laughter, turns to laughter. The tunes turn away from the grave, comforted by a funeral befitting a gag king. They climb into their cars and screech off like the start of the Indy 500. One mourner is left at the gravesite. Sitting in a chair, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief, is Jessica Rabbit. Maroon walks up behind her.
So, trying to pull a fast one on me, huh?
Jessica turns, startled. She stands and faces Maroon. Valiant smiles and leans in. This is the moment he's been waiting for. Now, just as the conversation begins, it's drowned out by a noise from a lawnmower. Valiant turns to see a gardener riding around a small tractor cutting the grass. Valiant tries to flag him down as he watches Maroon and Jessica having an argument. There's an accusatory finger pointing. In pantomime, Maroon gestures into his pocket as if describing the position of Acme's will. Jessica tries to leave. He grabs her arm. They're screaming at each other, but we don't hear a word. Valiant waves frantically at the gardener to cut the machine, but the gardener misconstrues it as friendly greeting and waves back. Valiant turns in time to see Jessica kick Maroon in the groin and stomp off to a red Auburn speedster. She jumps in and speeds away as Maroon staggers back to his car. The gardener stops the tractor next to Valiant. He shuts off the engine. The cemetery is completely still again.
Is there something you wanted?
Not anymore.
Exterior, Ink and Paint Club, alley, night. A Steinway piano truck is parked next to the stage door. Two husky piano movers are rolling a baby grand up the ramp to the stage door. They knock on the door. The gorilla opens it and they muscle the piano inside. After a moment, they re-emerge. We follow them back to the truck where a second baby grand stands ready to be moved.
I don't know about you, but it makes me sick to think of these beautiful pianos getting chopped into matchsticks every night by those screwy ducks.
Struggling, they push the second piano into the club. Interior club backstage. They roll the piano over the wall and park it next to the first.
And they call it entertainment.
As they go out the stage door, move in on the baby grand. Inside the piano, Valiant is lying prone, using the Steinway as his own Trojan horse. He lifts the piano lid to climb out, but then he hears footsteps approaching. He lowers the lid again. Now someone starts, testing the keys. We see the hammer strike the strings, running up the scales until they reach under Valiant's nose. The hammer whacks Valiant's nose on the backswing and strikes them up, making a terrible, sour note.
I'll do it again.
Not to worry, Donald. We can fix that with my flood hammer.
Never mind, Daffy. I got an axe in my dressing room.
Valiant's eyes widen. Angle on piano as the voices of Daffy and Donald recede. Valiant raises the lid and quickly climbs out. He eases over to Jessica's dressing room. As he starts to open the door, he hears scuffling from inside. Valiant puts his ear to the door. More scuffling. Valiant straightens, then suddenly whips the door open and flicks on the light. Interior dressing room. Nobody's there. Perplexed, Valiant closes the door behind him and checks behind the dressing screen. In the closet, no one. He shrugs and starts to search the room. He goes to Jessica's dressing table and rifles the drawers. In her purse, he discovers a Toon revolver. He examines it.
Girl's got to protect herself.
Valiant puts the gun back in the purse and closes the drawer. As he stands, he pauses to consider the Hurl-like black and white photo of Roger Rabbit in a silver deco frame. He's dramatically posed with a cigarette like he was Tyrone Power. Valiant shakes his head and turns from the table. Something catches his eye. Angle on floor. Behind the dressing table, the corner of a piece of blue paper peeks out. Valiant stoops down and fishes it out. It's a cover for a legal document. Last will and testament. Marvin Acme. Valiant stands, pleased. He opens a blue folder, but it's empty. Valiant puts it inside his pocket and turns to go, and suddenly an unseen hand flicks the lights off.
Son of a bitch.
We can't see anything in the darkness, but we hear the sound of a fistfight. There's crashing of lamps and furniture breaking. Now the door opens for a second, and the assailant escapes. Light floods into the room, illuminating Valiant on the floor with a curtain wrapped around his head. As he struggles to free, the door closes. The room is dark again. Valiant scrambles to the door. When he whips it open, reveal the gorilla framed in the doorway. Valiant is frozen. The gorilla flicks on the light. He smiles wickedly.
Well, well, well. In here, I thought we had mice.
Valiant tries to make a break for it. Wham! The gorilla lays him out cold with a right cross. Blackout. Fade in. Valiant's point of view from floor. As his vision comes into focus, Valiant sees the gorilla, Jessica Rabbit, the Weasles, and Judge Doom are standing over him.
I caught him rummaging around in here. Then I called you, Judge, on account of you be the one we pay juice to.
You did the right thing, Bongo.
The Weasles pull a groggy Valiant upright and plop him in a chair in front of Doom.
Being caught breaking and entering is not very good advertising for you, Detective. What were you looking for, Mr. Valiant?
Ask her.
Valiant nods toward Jessica, who stands coolly, smoking a cigarette.
Last week, some heavy breather wanted one of my nylons as a souvenir. Maybe that's what he was after.
Look, doll, if I wanted underwear, I would have broken into Fredericks of Hollywood. I was looking for Marvin Acme's will.
Marvin Acme had no will. I should know. The probate is in my court.
He had a will, all right. She took it off of Acme the night she and R.K. Maroon knocked him off. Then she set up her loving husband to take the fall.
You, Mr. Valiant, are either drunk or punch drunk. Probably both.
These are bold accusations, Mr. Valiant. I hope you have some proof.
I found the cover of the will came in behind the dressing table.
Valiant reaches into his pocket, but the blue envelope is gone.
They must have taken it off me.
They?
The other people who were in here looking for the will. I would have caught him if Cheetah here hadn't interrupted me.
The gorilla makes a move for Valiant. Doom stops him.
Take it easy, Bongo. We'll handle Mr. Valiant our own way. Downtown.
Downtown? Fine. Get a hold of Santino. I'll be more than glad to talk to him.
Oh no, not that downtown. Toontown.
The mention of Toontown has a visible impact on Valiant.
You're not taking me to downtown Toontown.
Indeed we are. We'll continue the interrogation there.
I ain't telling you nothing. Get me Santino!
You're a very stubborn man, Mr. Valiant. Very pig-headed. Boys, show Mr. Valiant how we handle pig-headed men at the Toontown station.
As the Weasles drag Valiant out of the room.
No, you bastards! Let go of me!
Exterior street, night. The Toon control wagon streaks along with the cat's siren wailing. It flashes, and then it slams on the brakes at the entrance of an eerie tunnel. A sign next to the tunnel says, Toontown. Interior wagon. The Weasles look over at the bound and gagged Valiant. One of them turns Valiant's head and look up at Toontown sign.
What are you shaking for? Didn't you have a good time last time we were here?
With a wicked wheeze, the driver floors it. Exterior tunnel. The wagon disappears into murky darkness. Pan up to the night sky. Dissolve to the sky, morning. Pan down to the tunnel. We can't see into the darkness, but we hear hooing and hollering from within. Guns going off, firecrackers exploding, whips cracking, all accompanied by the wheezing laughter of the Weasles.
Sweet, sweet. Let him go, boys. I think he's got the message.
After a beat, Valiant comes staggering out of the tunnel. He's got a burlap sack over his head tied around his waist. Behind him, the Weasles emerge holding paint cans and brushes. They watch as he trips and falls by the side of the road. The Weasles giggle victoriously and head back inside. Valiant lies there for a moment, catching his breath. Then he struggles to free his hands. Finally, he rips the sack off his head and sits up. Close, Valiant. We see he's got a huge Toon pig with a goofy grin painted over his head. Valiant pulls and tugs on it, but this is a costume that won't come off. Valiant curses, gets to his feet, and stumbles down the road. Exterior red car stop. Valiant gets in the back of the line of passengers boarding the red car. Interior red car, Valiant. Steps aboard. The trolleyman, who he recognizes Earl from the terminal bar, does a double take when he sees the ridiculously silly-looking man Toon.
Huh. Well, here's one for the books. A Toon wearing human clothes.
Earl, it's me, Valiant.
Eddie? Jesus, what happened?
Toon cops worked me over.
Boy, I'll say. They gave you a real Toonaroo.
What am I, Earl?
Earl breaks the news to Valiant soberly.
You're a pig, Eddie. A happy-go-lucky pig.
No.
Does it hurt?
Not much. It's hard to talk.
Eddie, do me a favor. Could you sit in the back so you won't cause as much of a commotion?
Valiant tries to pull the brim of his hat down, but it's comically small on his huge head. He makes his way down the aisle past a veritable gauntlet of razzing, poking, tripping passengers. Finally, he finds an empty seat in the back as a red car starts up. A little kid wearing a baseball cap is sitting a few seats away with his mother. The kid looks back at Eddie and laughs. He leans over and whispers something to his mom.
Can I, Mom?
Go ahead, darling. Take your bat.
The kid takes his baseball bat and approaches Valiant innocently.
Hi, Mr. Pig. If I hit you on the head, will you make a cuckoo bird?
The kid starts to take a swing with the bat.
Kid, you hit me in the head, I'm going to throw you out the window.
The kid's eyes widen in terror. This is not a typical Toon response. Interior, Valiant's apartment, bathroom, day. You hear the sound of the shower. Valiant's hand reaches out past the shower curtain and grabs for a bottle. But it's not shampoo. It's turpentine.
Damn it.
Close, tub drain. The water swirling down the drain is tinged with the paint of different colors.
Off we go.
Close, Valiant. He scrubs maniacally until the last of the pig head is gone. He rinses off and feels around his face. The absence of the Toon mask seems to bring him some relief. He shuts off the shower and slides the shower curtain back. Valiant's point of view, Jessica Rabbit, is leaning up against the door jamb, dressed, as usual, in a black cocktail dress with elbow-length gloves and pearls.
Hello, Mr. Valiant. I rang the doorbell, but I guess you couldn't hear it.
That's because I don't have a doorbell.
Jessica, caught in her lie, flutters her eyelids nervously.
Oh, well, I just had to see you.
Okay, you've seen me. Now give me a towel.
As she hands him a towel, she stares down at his anatomy.
What's that thing?
Valiant looks down at what she's referring to.
Come on, lady, haven't you ever seen a mole before?
Toons aren't given imperfections.
No? I guess we're not counting lying, stealing, and murder.
You've got the wrong idea about me. I'm a pawn, just like poor Roger. Can you help me find him? I'll pay you anything.
Yeah, I bet you would. You gotta have the rabbit to make a scam work.
No. I love my husband.
Oh, sure. I can just feature you standing outside your little hutch, holding a carrot cake, waiting for hubby to come home.
Oh, please don't make fun of me, Mr. Valiant. You don't know how hard it is being a woman looking the way I do.
Yeah, well, you don't know how hard it is being a man looking at a woman looking the way you do.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
I'm not complaining, but give me credit. I'm the guy who took pictures of you and Acme playing patty cake, remember?
Jessica takes a cigarette out of her purse. She lights it and blows a cloud of Toon smoke. It forms a recreation of what she describes.
Maroon came to me. He told me he'd fire Roger if I didn't do it. I went along with him for Roger's sake. It was only patty cake after all.
Valiant waves at the smoke scene, dispelling it.
So altruistic.
It's the truth. Why don't you believe me?
Because I don't take Acme dumb pills. I don't know what you're up to, lady, but I'm going to nail you for the Acme murder.
If I'm as bad as you think I am, what's stopping me from just killing you right now?
Valiant reaches behind him and picks up a small cup on the sink.
This cup of turpentine right here. Go for that gun in your purse and I'll let you have it.
Jessica breaks down and starts sobbing.
Oh, please, Mr. Valiant, please, you're my only hope.
She comes to Eddie and hugs him, burying her head in his shoulder.
I'm weak, you're strong. Can't you find a place somewhere in your heart to help me?
Valiant looks down at the luscious creature in his arms, considering the request. The moment is interrupted by the clearing of a voice.
Dabbling in watercolors, Eddie.
Valiant, still in just a towel, sheepishly turns to face Dolores, who's standing in the doorway.
Dolores.
Dolores regards Jessica with undisguised contempt.
Let me guess, your cousin from Des Moines.
Jessica straightens her dress.
Perhaps I should go.
Must you?
Goodbye, Eddie. Don't hate me.
Jessica blows Eddie a Toon kiss, which flies across the room, landing on Eddie's cheek. She saunters past the smoldering Dolores out the door. Dolores walks to Eddie and peels the kiss off his cheek. She crumples it up and throws it in the wastebasket.
What was that?
That was the rabbit's wife.
The rabbit's wife. Want to tell me what she was doing with her arms around you?
I was looking for a good place to stick a knife.
I just stopped by to tell you that I checked out the Acme probate.
Maroon, right?
No, that's the Cloverleaf outfit again.
What the hell do they want with a gag factory?
Got me, but unless the will shows up by Friday midnight, it's theirs.
As Valiant considers this new development, he cocks an ear. In the distance, we hear faint singing.
What's that coming from the bar?
Sounds like singing.
Oh, no.
As Valiant grabs his pants. Cut to interior terminal bar day. Roger's out all right. In fact, he's using the bar as a stage for a song and dance number. The tune is extremely familiar. In fact, it's the one that opens every Warner Brothers cartoon, the Looney Tune anthem, but we've never heard words to go with it.
Oh, the merry-go-round broke down, but you don't see me frown.
Roger grabs Augie's pen and pencil, scribbles some drawings lightning fast.
Things turned out fine, and now she's mine.
Roger flips through the pad with crude animation, shows the story of Roger and Jessica getting back together, culminating in them kissing in a heart. Augie's delighted.
'Cause the merry-go-round went round. Ho, 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 ha, ho, ha, ho, ho, ho.
Roger does backflips and acts like an escapee from the acute ward. The door opens. Eddie and Dolores enter. Valiant stops in his tracks, and the sight of Roger's performance, and the smiles on the faces of the sourpusses. Close, Roger. Doesn't see Eddie. He moves to the next verse. He twirls around on the post.
My name is Roger Rabbit. I've got a crazy habit. I like to sing and dance and yuck.
Roger goes to Angelo, lifts up his cap, and whacks his toupee, making it spin like a top.
So brighten up and smile, you schmuck.
All the regulars in the bar have a good laugh at that one. Now as Roger twirls around on the post, he smashes a bar tray held by Eddie. Valiant carries him toward the back room. By the irrepressible entertainer gets on his knees, Al Jolson style, and blows kisses to his audience. The regulars are howling as Roger is carried out. Interior back room. Valiant flings Roger into the room and slams the door behind him.
Hey, don't I get an encore?
You crazy tune. I went out there risking my neck for you. I come back here and you're singing and dancing.
But that's my calling, my purpose, my raison d'etre. Tunes are supposed to make people laugh. And believe me, these people needed a laugh.
And when they're done laughing, they're gonna call the cops on you. That guy Angelo would rat on you for a nickel.
Angelo? He's a pal, a chum.
An arsonist and a kidnapper. He just got out of prison.
Well, I still don't think he'd turn me in.
Because you made him laugh?
A laugh can be a powerful thing, Eddie. Sometimes it's the only weapon we have in life.
I prefer the Smith & Wesson variety.
Oof. I've met some cynical and miserable humans in my time, but you, Edward Valiant, are positively funerarial.
And well, right now it's going to be your funerarial.
Valiant takes his fist back to belt Roger. Roger stands stoically, jaw thrust forward, eyes closed.
Go ahead and throw that punch. You'd be more successful with a punchline.
Valiant drops his fist and rubs his temples with frustration.
You're driving me crazy. You know that? Let's go. You've ruined this as a hiding place.
Valiant grabs Roger by the scruff of the neck and opens up the door, but he ducks back in quickly. Valiant's point of view, through door, Judge Doom, has entered the bar. He stands framed in the doorway, Voltaire perched on his shoulder. The red light of the neon sign flashes on his glasses, making them look like he's got burning coals for eyes. With the Weasles at the door backing him up, the satanic Doom walks into the bar, his footsteps creaking along the wooden floor. He surveys the scene, leans over the bar for a glass. Doom holds the glass up to the light and looks at it disgustedly. He picks up a bottle of scotch and carries it down to where the one-armed soldier is sitting. Doom stares at him, then pulls the empty sleeve out of the amputee's pocket. He uses it to wipe the inside of the glass.
I'm looking for a rabbit. He was last seen in this neighborhood.
The barflies avoid Doom's stare and shoot covered glances to one another, but nobody says a word. Doom pours a drink into his newly cleaned glass, then gently pours it down Voltaire's gullet.
You couldn't miss him. Buck teeth, orange pants, about yay big.
Doom squashes the midget's head down to approximate the size.
There's no rabbit here, so don't harass my customers.
Doom turns to Dolores.
I didn't come here to harass. I came here to reward.
Doom walks around Dolores toward the back, but Doom stops next to the blackboard. On it is written, today's special French dip, 50 cents. Doom erases the French and the decimal point in front of the 50. Then he picks up the chalk and starts to write. The chalk squeaks excruciatingly on the blackboard. Everyone winces but watches anyway. As Doom writes, rabbit, where the French was, and adds the zeros to the 50, it now reads, rabbit dip, $5,000. At the bar, All eyes are fixed on the figure at the blackboard. Angelo licks his lips.
Hey, I've seen a rabbit.
Angelo looks defensively at all his cronies and back to Doom.
He's right here, in the bar.
But instead of pointing to the back of the bar, he talks to the empty bar stool beside him.
Say hello, Harvey.
The tension is broken. Everybody at the bar starts howling. Interior back room. Roger turns to Eddie victoriously.
See, I told you so.
In the bar, Doom stares down at the regulars until the laughter stops. Meanwhile, a weasel has started sniffing around the bar where Roger was dancing. As Doom turns to leave, the weasel whispers into his ear and he points to the back. Doom smiles and pats the weasel on the head. He turns to Angelo and the others.
Now we'll see who laughs best.
The weasel bloodhounds through the bar with Doom striding after him. We follow them to the door to the back room. Doom rips open the door. Interior back room. It's dark. Doom flicks on the light. Reveal Valiant on the cot, his pint bottle cradled in his arm. He blinks as if awakened from a drunken slumber.
Valiant, why is it that whenever my men smell a rabbit, you're there?
Valiant plumps the pillow behind his head.
Must be my cologne. Eau de carrot.
Isn't it all right, boss?
Suddenly, the weasel grabs the pillow from under Valiant's head and carves it into shreds with the switchblade. Feathers fly, but no rabbit fur.
Yous want what we should take the place apart?
The rest of the weasels are arrayed behind Doom with tune crowbars, picks, and a jackhammer.
No, Sergeant. That won't be necessary.
Doom walks over to the locker.
I know a trick that no tune can resist.
Doom raps on the locker with his knuckles. Dun 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 dun. It's a familiar pattern that demands a dun dun response. Doom moves to the desk and tries again. Da 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 da. Inside a Maxwell House coffee can, Roger is hiding while sweating out the urge to finish the familiar coda. We hear the rapping again. Closer. Dun da da dun dun. Roger's biting his nails. Doom moves up to the milk crate and the coffee can is on. Valiant gets up from the cot.
You know, Doom, I don't know who's tuning you. You or the rabbit.
Doom just smiles and knocks the pattern out on the crate.
Shave and a haircut.
Roger bursts out of the can with a lid on his head. He responds con brio.
2 minutes! Oh!
Shoo! Roger flies out the door. Interior, the bar. He streaks across the bar and out the front door. After a beat, 2 weasels step into the bar holding the butterfly net where they stretched across the door. They wheeze with glee at the struggling Roger trapped inside. A third weasel carries the judge's briefcase. Doom strides confidently into the bar.
Order, order, order. Court is now in session.
Valiant and Dolores are led out by a couple weasels holding guns on them. As Doom snaps the briefcase open on the bar, the 12 kangaroos pop up in their jury box. Doom raps on the bar with his gavel-headed cane. The regulars watch the bizarre scene in stunned silence.
Roger Rabbit is charged with the cold-blooded murder of a human, Marvin Acme. The jury will direct their attentions to exhibits A, B, and C.
The weasels display photographs of Jessica and Acme playing patty cake, a blow-up of his fingerprints spelling Roger Rabbit in the whorls on the photographs, and a picture of Acme lying under the safe.
Motive, evidence, modus operandi. How do you find the defendant?
Once again, the kangaroo court wastes no time in delivering the verdict. The baby kangaroos pop up with their YOUAREGUILTY signs.
Guilty as charged. Case closed.
Doom slams the briefcase shut. Now 2 weasels wheel the stainless steel tub filled with dip into the bar. Another hand Doom's his black rubber gloves.
For this heinous crime, I sentence you to the dip.
No, not the dip. Eddie, tell him I didn't do it.
I think it's gonna matter. Sorry, pal. I tried.
Yes, and for that, you're charged with aiding and abetting. But we'll let Santino handle that.
Doom pulls on the rubber gloves.
Hey, doesn't get a rabbit get a last request?
A blindfold, cigarette, nose plugs. Just kidding.
I think you want a drink. How about it, Judge?
Well, why not? I'm feeling magnanimous tonight. The successful conclusion of this case draws the curtain on my career as a jurist. I'm retiring to take a new role in the private sector.
Yeah, well, don't expect the tunes to give you a gold watch.
Valiant pours a glass of whiskey, filling it all the way to the rim. He holds it out to Roger.
Here you go, kid. Guess I had to cast before me.
But Eddie, you know what happens when...
Drink it, jerk. All of it.
He grabs Roger's hand and forces the drink into it. Roger shrugs his shoulders and shoots the drink down. We've seen this reaction before. Suddenly, Roger's head turns into a steam whistle emitting such a piercing blast that it sends everyone into ear-grabbing agony. Glasses, bottles, mirrors, even Doom's glasses shatter. Valiant uses the distraction to punch the weasels holding Roger. He grabs the rabbit by the scruff of his neck. He gets an assist from Augie, who couldn't hear the noise. Unfazed, Augie whacks the weasel on the head with a bar stool. The midget crawls behind Doom, who's been momentarily blinded. The one-armed soldier pushes him over. Angelo is currently turning one weasel's head around and around like a cruller. Finally, Doom gets to his feet.
After them, you fools!
As the weasels regroup, Valiant tips the stainless steel tub over, sending the dip spilling toward them. The weasels recoil from the liquid. Even Doom takes a step backward. Exterior terminal bar. Eddie and Roger face down the stairs toward the tune control wagon, which is parked in front of Doom's Lincoln.
Oh, Eddie, that was quick thinking. Nothing like you using the old noggin, the noodle, the gray matter.
If I'm so smart, how can I run from the law with a tune?
Valiant opens the door of the tune control wagon and flings Roger inside roughly. Interior cab. Eddie goes to start a vehicle, but the key is gone. Now from behind them comes a deep, rumbling voice, somewhere between Lord Buckley and Barry White.
Excuse me, gentlemen.
Eddie and Roger turn. A snazzy tune roadster with a grill functions as its mouth, is talking from behind the liquid bars.
If you effect my extraction, I could offer you some carburation.
Valiant sighs with resignation and slides out of the cab, Roger in tow. Exterior, rear of wagon. Eddie and Roger come racing around the side of the wagon. Valiant searches the back of the truck for the on-off switch. He finds it and turns off the flow of acetone. The Roadster zips out of the truck and lands on the pavement, already flexing and limbering. Behind him, a comical number of other tune detainees hop out, like midgets out of a Volkswagen. They all head for the hills.
Well, what are we waiting for? The William Tell Overture?
Angle on the terminal bar. The weasels, compiling out. They stack up like an Indian totem pole, searching every direction. One of them spots Eddie and Roger. The weasels stumble all over themselves in a mad scramble down the stairs. Eddie and Roger hop into the sleek two-seater. Valiant looks at the myriad of goofy cartoon gauges and switches on the Roadster's dashboard.
What do I do?
You don't have to do nothing.
With a ferocious rubber-burning squeal, the Roadster roars off in no frames. The exit is so fast that Eddie and Roger are left behind, hanging mid-air. But before they hit the ground, the Roadster zips back into frame. Eddie and Roger fall back to the ground to their seats. The Roadster bends around so the grill is facing them.
Except hang on to your hat.
The Roadster roars off again in a cloud of tune dust. Interior, Santino's cop car, coming the other way. It's followed by another squad car, both with sirens blaring. When the red blur streaks by, Lieutenant Santino turns to his partner.
What the hell was that?
Speeding rabbit, Lieutenant!
That's what I was afraid of.
Exterior street. Santino's car does a 180-degree spin and goes after the Roadster. The second squad car follows. The Weasels pile into the Toon control wagon and join the chase. Interior, the Roadster rockets down the street, then takes a turn so wide that it drives up the front corner of the building, then back down on the sidewalk, just avoiding a newsstand. The squad car following is not so dexterous. It crashes into the stand, sending newspapers flying. The Roadster looks back over its shoulder, admiring its handiwork.
Read all about it. Benny's back in town.
Up ahead, an egg delivery truck is double parked in their lane. Benny snaps around just as they're about to crash into the back of the truck. There's nowhere to go, but Benny's cool.
Going up.
Suddenly, just before impact, the Toon suspension on the car accordions up, giving it a clearance of about 15 feet, just enough to get over the truck. The Toon control wagon doesn't come with this unique feature. It tries to avoid the truck, but smashes into the back, splattering hundreds of eggs and sending the Weasels flying. Eddie and Roger look down from their suspended position at the chaos behind.
Next floor, sundries, knickknacks, escaped convicts. Watch your step.
The Roadster accordions back down to its original height and speeds past two motorcycle cops. The motorcycles roar after them.
Reckless driving. Do you believe it?
Yeah, hard to imagine.
Benny zigzags through traffic, scooting between cars, but the motorcycle cops manage to stay on his tail. Up ahead, traffic is stopped in his lane. With nowhere to go, Benny passes a trolley car moving down the center of the street. Suddenly, he swerves in front of the trolley to elude the cops, only to see another red car coming the other way.
Benny, you got a line there?
Oh, hold your breath, babies.
Benny sucks in his girth and gets up on his tiptoes as the trolleys pass on either side of them. Wide shot. When the trolleys clear, Benny staggers out from between them, still on tiptoes. Benny plops down, squashes, then pops up to his old self again. Behind them, the crippled Toon control wagon is struggling to keep up. Voltaire circles above the truck and picks two Weasels up off the roof. They're each carrying several sticks of dynamite. From the air, we see Voltaire flying after the Roadster, which is speeding along the palm-lined Elysian Park Drive. The Weasels light the dynamite sticks with a wheezing delight, bombard the car below. Benny swerves right and left, dodging the explosions. Now a stick of dynamite falls into the back seat, fuse burning. Benny looks back.
Hate to sound like Chicken Little, but is the sky falling or what?
Eddie and Roger turn to see the dynamite, fuse burning low. Valiant makes a desperate grab for it, but rolls under the front seat. Roger jumps in Eddie's lap. Above, Voltaire and the Weasels, satisfied that they've hit their target, swoop back to Toon control wagon. In the Roadster, Valiant tries to untangle himself from Roger.
Grab it, you idiot!
Finally, at the last second, Roger reaches down and picks the dynamite up like a hot potato. He flips it out of the Roadster. The dynamite spins through the air, finally landing on the roof just as Voltaire and the Weasels arrive. Boom! The Toon control wagon is demolished. When the smoke clears, we see the Weasels and Voltaire scattered roadside, faces blackened, feathers smoking. Exterior, Echo Park Street. Benny is leading a merry chase up and down the hills. Beside the two motorcycles, there are half a dozen SWAT cars. But as Benny comes over to the last rise, we see the road dead ends at Echo Park Lake. The police have backed off the perpendicular streets with squad cars. Eddie and Roger see the dead end fast approaching. Roger covers his eyes with his ears. Valiant braces himself.
The brakes! The brakes!
Benny hits the brakes. Smoke pours out as they burn up and the momentum is barely broken.
Forget the brakes. Who brought the water wings?
The Roadster smashes through the wooden guardrail and sails out over the water. Kerplop! Splashes down in the lake. The police cars screech to a stop at the end of the lake. Santino jumps out and regards the floating Roadster. He turns to the other cops with a smirk. When he turns back again, the smirk disappears from his face. Angle on lake. Benny is calmly swimming away, using his fenders to do the crawl. Now they pass a spooning couple in a rowboat. The couple regard them open-mouthed. The edge of the lake. Benny nears the shoreline, touches bottom, and wades out. When they hit dry land, Benny shakes off like a dog. He revs his engine.
Maybe it's my imagination, but I always seem to run better after I've had a wash. Now, where can I drop you cats?
As Benny roars off, cut to, exterior alley, day. Benny peeks around the corner, then tiptoes into view, down the alley until he steps in front of a back door. Eddie and Roger climb out.
Thanks, Benny.
If you ever need me, just stick out your thumb.
Whoosh! Benny is gone. Valiant goes back to the door and unlocks it, as he and Roger head up the back stairs. Cut to, interior, building, close, doorway. A hand-painted design on a rippled glass shows a knight on a white charger. On the shield in bold letters it says, Veritas, and lettered around it, Valiant and Valiant, private investigation. Valiant sticks his key in the door and unlocks it. Roger studies the banner.
Valiant and Valiant? Who's the other Valiant?
My brother. Get inside.
He pushes Roger into the office. Interior office. It's a typical detective office. A couch, a sink, a window. Except for the partner's desk in the middle of the room, there's a chair on each side. Valiant closes the door and locks it.
So, what's our plan? Our scenario? Our modus operandi?
We can't do anything till it's dark.
Valiant picks up some yellowed newspapers off the couch and dumps them on the floor. They leave a clean spot on the couch.
I guess you haven't been here in a while. They bombed Pearl Harbor.
Roger walks over to the wall. He takes a framed picture off the wall which shows two guys clowning around with Mickey Mouse.
Say, who's this guy laughing?
Me.
Oh, gee, I didn't recognize you, because I've never seen you laugh before. Your brother making the rabbit ears?
What is this, 20 questions?
Valiant grabs the picture from Roger and rehangs it.
I'm gonna get some sleep. I suggest you do the same.
Valiant stretches out on the couch. Roger nudges him to move over so he can lie down. Grudgingly, Valiant slides over a fraction, giving Roger a tiny piece of the couch. They lie head to foot. Close up. Valiant. The problems of the day are knitting his brow. Finally, his eyes close. After a beat, we hear Roger snoring. It's loud. Valiant's eyes pop open. He rolls over. Widen the shot to see what he sees. Above Roger's head, a toon dream bubble has appeared. Inside the bubble, a saw sawing back and forth through a log. It is synchronized to the sound of Roger's snore. Valiant kicks Roger, trying to stop the infernal sound. Roger sits up.
Huh?
In the dream bubble, the saw cuts through the log. One end of the log falls out of the bubble and bonks Roger on the head, knocking him unconscious.
Oh.
Valiant shakes his head and closes his eyes again. We pan up off the face and pan along the window where the sun is setting. As the camera moves along the wall, we see the gallery of framed newspaper clippings. Valiant and Valiant crack Popeye kidnapping. Return Sweet Pea to the loving arms of parents. And brothers find Heckle and Jekyll rescued from Redwood Forest. And Goofy cleared of atomic spying charges. The pan continues until we get to the window again. Now it's dark outside. Move down to Valiant's sleeping face. He stirs, then opens one eye. Now they both pop open at what he sees. Valiant's point of view. Roger has a magnifying glass an inch in front of his face that distorts his grinning face hideously. Valiant, startled from his sleep, reflexively shoves Roger away from him. He flies into a swivel chair and goes spinning around.
Hey, you damn toon. No wonder they picked you for a patsy. You're just gonna play the fool. You make me sick.
Gee, you Seamuses are a tough audience. What happened to you that was so dark, lurid, and embittering?
You wanna know? So just so goddamn curious, I'll tell you. One of you toons killed my brother.
A toon? No.
Yeah, a toon. It was the guy who killed Bambi's mother.
Him? Oh, he was vile, heinous, despicable, a smear on the drafting board.
Yeah, everybody thought so. But me and Teddy got a kick out of the toons. All toons. We couldn't see the bad in them. When this guy was accused of knocking over the First National Bank of Toontown, we took his case. But when we looked into it, we found that he did it after all. We went to his house to take him in. But he was wise. He got the drop on us. Literally.
Safe.
Piano. Guy got away. Disappeared into Toontown. Nobody ever saw him again.
Now the phone on the desk rings. Roger makes a move to it.
I'll get it.
Get away from there.
The phone rings 2 more times and stops.
Wrong number?
No, it's not.
Valiant goes to the phone, anticipating a ring, which comes after a moment. Valiant picks up the receiver.
Dolores?
Intercut, Dolores, on the phone in the terminal bar.
Sorry, hey, let me see what page we're on.
Looks like
82.
I was hoping you'd be there. Maroon's called here about 4 times. He says he's got to talk to you tonight. He says he can help you.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Are you going to call him, Eddie?
What have I got to lose? You okay, Dolores?
Yeah. They closed me down for a couple of weeks.
I'll work out just fine. When this thing's over, I'll take you to Catalina. How's that sound?
Familiar. Be careful, Eddie.
Dolores hangs up the phone. Intercut to Valiant. He clicks the switch hook and dials.
Maroon, what do you want?
You got the will?
Maybe. Why?
Meet me on studio at 9 o'clock. If you've got the will, maybe we can stop this thing.
Stop what?
Click. Maroon has hung up. Valiant hangs up the phone and goes to a wall safe. He spins the combination.
Gee, Eddie, you're not gonna go, are you? Maroon will be laying for you like at 9 o'clock.
That's why I'll be there at 8:45.
I'll tell you what, maybe I better come with you.
Forget it.
Valiant reaches into the safe for a .38 revolver. He checks the cylinder. Then he takes out a wooden box about 8 by 12. He closes the safe, picks up a black doctor's bag, and puts the box and the revolver into it.
You know, Eddie, I'm not as much of a chump and a patsy, a yokel as you think.
How much is a shave and a haircut, Roger?
Too bad.
I rest my case.
Valiant goes to the door. Pauses.
If I don't make it back here by 10...
Yeah?
I'd head for Cucamonga.
Valiant closes the door, leaving Roger alone. Roger paces back and forth maniacally.
Cucamonga? I don't know anybody in Cucamonga.
Exterior, Maroon Studio, night. The lot is dark and deserted. Now headlights cut through the darkness as Maroon's Packard pulls up in front of the administration building. Interior, car, Maroon. Reaches over and opens the glove compartment. He takes out a small automatic, but his hands are so slippery with perspiration it falls to the floor. Cursing, he takes out a handkerchief, wipes his hands and his face, and picks up the gun again. As he gets out of the car, we see the clock says 8:55. Interior, administration building, night. Maroon hustles up to his office door. He looks nervously over his shoulder, then goes inside. Interior, Maroon's office. Maroon switches on the lights. He goes to his desk. He takes out the gun and puts it in the left-hand drawer. Then he takes it out and puts it in the right-hand drawer. Then back to the original drawer. Finally satisfied, he goes to the bar to claim his obviously shattered nerves. And as his shaky hand starts to pour from the decanter, another hand comes into frame.
Steady, RK. That stuff's 18 years old.
Maroon jumps back as Valiant steps from behind the curtain, holding his black bag.
Valiant. Surprised me.
That was the idea.
Valiant takes over the pouring duties. He turns and carries Maroon's drink to him. Maroon goes and sits down in his chair. He looks to the pistol hiding place. Valiant casually sits on the desk, putting his leg over the drawer.
You're not too good at this, are you, RK?
No. No, I'm not. I'm a cartoon maker, not a murderer.
Yeah, well, everybody needs a hobby.
No, you gotta understand, Valiant. I had nothing to do with Acme getting killed. I just wanted to sell my studio, but they wouldn't buy my property unless Acme would sell his, and he wouldn't. So I was gonna blackmail Acme with pictures of him and the rabbit's wife.
Maroon gets up from his chair, highly agitated.
But then it all went to hell. I've been around tunings all my life. I can't sit around and see them all destroyed.
Maroon eyes Valiant's black bag.
You got the will in there? You do, don't you?
No, I don't.
You tricked me. Damn you.
Take it easy.
There's no time to take it easy. You don't realize the diabolical mind we're dealing with.
Angle on window. The gun pokes through the open window past the curtain. It's a Colt 45 blunt line, an unmistakable gun with an extra long barrel.
If I don't get that will by midnight tonight, Toontown's just gonna be land for the free.
Valiant sees a reflection of the gun in the glass on a movie poster on the wall. He turns, but it's too late. Bang, bang, bang! Maroon crumples, caught mid-sentence. Valiant dives behind the desk and draws his gun. He looks over at Maroon's dead body on the floor.
The home of the brave?
Valiant crawls to the window where the shots came from. He looks out. Valiant's point of view. Then the comely silhouette of Jessica Rabbit runs to her car, jumps in, and roars out of the studio gate. Valiant grabs his black bag, climbs out of the office window, and jumps off the fire escape to the lot below. Exterior, studio lot. Valiant hops into Maroon's Packard. He hits the starter button and takes off after Jessica. New angle. As the car pulls away, the trunk lid lifts. Roger Rabbit peers out, disoriented, then closes it. Exterior street, night. Jessica's car speeds along. Valiant is close in pursuit to the Packard. He's about to catch up on the straightaway when Jessica's cars disappear into a tunnel. Valiant slams on his brake. The Packard goes fishtailing, finally spinning to a stop at the foot of the Toontown sign. Valiant gets out of the car. He looks down the tunnel. He's sweating. He loosens his necktie. He paces back and forth at the tunnel mouth. He looks up at the Toontown sign and suddenly smashes it with his fist. It spins around like a weather vane. Valiant walks to the Packard with purpose. He grabs the black bag and puts it on the hood. He opens it and takes out the wooden box. Close box. As the clasp is popped open and the box opened, reveal a stunning presentation model Toon 38 resting on crushed velvet. It's everything a real gun could be, and more. Each feature is exaggerated. The barrel, the cylinder, the ivory grips are all Toon-sized. Valiant picks up the gun and hefts it respectfully. Then he opens the ammo section to the wooden box. 6 Toon 38 dum-dum bullets are in velvet creases. The Toon bullets blink to life as if awakening from a long sleep.
Eddie, is that really you?
Uh-huh.
What year is it?
46.
Who won the war?
Who do you think, dummy?
Welcome back, Eddie.
Where you been for the last 5 years?
Drunk.
He opens the cylinder.
Feeling frisky tonight, fellas?
Yeah!
Yeah!
The bullets eagerly dive into their respective chambers. He snaps the cylinder closed, reaches into his shoulder holster, and takes out the pint bottle. He unscrews the cap and pours the rest of the booze onto the ground. When it's drained, he flings the bottle into the air and fires the Toon 38. Kapow! It makes a sound like a cannon. The Toon bullet climbs like a rocket into the dark sky. It screeches up to the bottle, puts on the brakes. The bullet puts on a jeweler's eyepiece, and it whips out a little hammer and chisel and delivers it in one delicate tap. Valiant watches as cut glass chandelier falls out of the sky and crashes at his feet. Valiant holsters his weapon, climbs into the Packard. He puts it in gear and pulls into the tunnel. In the tunnel, driving. As Valiant heads toward the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel, suddenly the car radio comes on.
From the tippity top of Toontown's Tip Top Club, this is Mellow Melody Matinee. Here's our favorite cricket, Jiminy, with Give a Little Whistle.
When you get in trouble and you don't know right from wrong.
Valiant turns the on-off switch, then punches all the buttons, but to no avail. The song plays on anyway.
Give a little whistle. Give a little whistle.
I hate Toontown.
As Jiminy croons on, Valiant emerges from the tunnel. Valiant's point of view. Through the windshield, we see we have arrived in Toontown, where it is a beautiful sunny day. Eddie is now driving down a phantasmagorical boulevard in a completely animated world. It's a Max Fleischer version of the city neighborhood. The trees and buildings are swaying in time to the music. Eddie looks to his left and sees a huge Aphrodite-like hood ornament on the front of a Toon car. Then, as the car starts to pass him, he sees hood, more hood, then a chauffeur, then more car, and finally the wolf we remember from the Ink and Paint Club. He's in a top hat and tails, a tuned lamb in the passenger seat. He tips his hat.
Hello, cousin.
He drives past a Toon building under construction. Like everything else in Toontown, the construction company sports the name Acme. The sign out front says, "Watch our progress." Eddie looks up, and before he can drive by, the building gets built floor by floor with the accompanying sound effects in about 2 seconds. Up ahead, the street is clear for blocks. Then suddenly, cars pour out of all side streets at once, clogging the boulevard like
arteriosclerosis.
Yes, like arterial sclerosis. There is a mad honking in the cartoon traffic jam. Eddie shakes his head. He pulls over, parks, and gets out. Valiant pulls out his Toon 38. Suddenly, the street empties in a blink of an eye. Shutters close, and the sidewalk rolls up like window shades. It's so quiet, you could hear a pin drop. In fact, a pin drops from a second-story window, landing with a clang of a manhole cover. All is quiet again. Valiant starts across the street. There is a creak behind him. Valiant whirls around, leveling his pistol at the sound. Angle on Packard. Roger peeks out of the trunk of Maroon's car.
Don't shoot, Eddie, it's me!
Valiant lowers the gun as Roger emerges.
The hell are you doing in there?
I followed you to the Maroon studios. I heard those shots. I thought I'd help you investigate the inside of this trunk.
Valiant reaches into the black bag in the car. He comes out with a pair of Toon handcuffs. He slaps one on Roger's wrist.
Hey, what are you doing?
Valiant drags Roger to the steering wheel.
Making sure you don't help me anymore.
He locks the cuff to it and heads across the street. Around the corner, Valiant stops at a street sign. The post is bristling with fingers pointing in different directions, i.e. Poughkeepsie, Transylvania, Walla Walla, South Pole. The finger points down, of course. And finally, the finger which says, the Dame. Eddie follows the finger down the side street to a high-rise building. He catches a glimpse of Jessica darting into the elevator. Valiant hustles inside after her. Valiant goes to the elevators and watches the floor indicator spinning round and round, finally stopping with a bing on the 125th floor. The elevator doors open and Valiant steps on. In the elevator, Valiant punches 125. Suddenly, the elevator takes out with so much velocity that Valiant is thrown to the floor. After a moment, it stops so fast that he hits the ceiling, then bounces back to the floor as the door opens. He picks himself up and steps off the elevator. He's in a foyer with 4 doors. Valiant opens the first and steps inside. He disappears. New angle. Valiant is on the outside of the building, hanging onto a flagpole for dear life. He looks down at the street, which looks miles below. Valiant inches back along the flagpole to the door and pulls himself to safety. Inside, Valiant tries the next door, this time more carefully. A speeding train is coming right at him. He slams the door. He tries the next one. A homely old Toon lady is in a bathtub. She lets out a blood-curdling scream. Valiant closes that door quickly and turns to the last. When he opens this one, we hear foreboding music. We see a dark alley. Warily, Valiant walks into the alley, gun drawn. There's a noise behind the garbage cans. Valiant turns as a dead body with a knife in his back falls out of the shadows at Valiant's feet. A squeaky voice comes from behind Valiant.
I guess they didn't clean up after the last murder.
Valiant whips around to see a Toon rat perched on a skull, picking his teeth. Valiant kicks the skull. The rat scrambles for cover. As Valiant continues on, we see Jessica Rabbit steps out of the shadows behind him and aim a gun at his back.
Don't move, Valiant.
Valiant turns slowly to see Jessica's got a bead on him with her revolver.
Well, I always figured I'd get it in Toontown.
Blam! She fires, but Valiant's still standing. We hear a crash behind Eddie as a figure falls into some boxes from a fire escape below.
I think I got him.
Jessica runs past Valiant to the figure. He follows, bewildered. Angle on ground. We can see 2 rabbit ears sticking out from behind a box.
You shot Roger.
That's not Roger. It's one of Doom's men. He killed Arcane Maroon.
Jessica moves the box aside and tugs the rabbit ears. The rabbit head pops off. Underneath is a weasel. In his hand, the Colt .45 blunt line.
Lady, I guess I had you pegged wrong.
Don't worry, you're not the first. We better get out of here.
As they run down the alley, cut to the Packard, Roger, is behind the wheel making engine noises like a little kid. He pushes all the buttons, windshield wipers, convertible top, etc., until he accidentally hits the starter button. Vroom! The Packard fires to life. Roger startled for a moment, but quickly regains his composure.
What would be the harm if I took her for a little spin?
He throws it into gear. The Packard bucks into the car in front of them. Then Roger shifts again. The same process is repeated in reverse. He smashes back and forth. Bang! Bang!
Ah, the open road!
Around the corner, Eddie and Jessica come racing down the street.
It was Doom who killed Acme, you know.
Why didn't you tell me?
I didn't know who I could trust.
Yeah, we're even. By the way, I did find your husband.
Where is he?
He's right here in the...
Valiant rounds the corner and points toward the spot where the car used to be, but all that remains is a crumpled bumper.
car.
He shakes his head and looks around for signs of Roger. Intercut to the Packard is careening down Toon Streets, totally out of control. Panicked, Roger is spinning the wheel as if it were a motorboat. He drives in one side of Mother Goose's shoe and out the other. Diapers all over the windshield, unable to see. Roger steers right off the road. The car hurtles through space. As it starts to fall, we see its Toon Monument Valley. The Packard passes a promontory on which Wile E. Coyote is perched. As Roger passes, he waves to the coyote.
Hi, Roger Rabbit! Love your work!
Intercut to Eddie and Jessica, who are now facing a squad of 10 Toon Control Weasels. They unleash a fuselage of bullets. Valiant knocks Jessica to the ground. The bullets pass harmlessly overhead, going into the window of the Acme cheese shop, riddling a round of cheese. The cheesemaker's hand comes into frame, changing the sign that says Gouda to Swiss. Valiant rolls and fires his Toon 38 special. The Toon bullet turns into a cannonball, which rolls down the street, busting up the Weasel squad like a bowling ball through 10 pins. As Eddie pulls Jessica to her feet, 2 more Weasels descend on them. They fling 2 knives, which pin Eddie to a wooden fence. Valiant rips one hand free and blasts 2 shots at them. The Toon bullets get to the Weasels and open their nose cones. 2 frying pans emerge and boink the Weasels on the head. Jessica starts to pull the knives out, releasing Eddie.
How'd you get onto Doom?
Marvin told me. Doom was after his land. He was afraid. That's why he brought me his will.
Valiant sees a Weasel skulking at them with a Tommy gun. Blam! Valiant fires at him. The Weasel ducks back around to the corner, but Valiant's dum-dum screeches to a stop and goes around the corner too. We hear the explosion. The Weasel comes staggering out and falls to the street.
So where is it?
When I opened up the blue envelope, all that was inside was a blank piece of paper.
A joker till the end.
Now Weasels are coming at them from every direction. Valiant aims the Toon 38 at a Toon tank rolling their way, but when he pulls the trigger, the gun just clicks. Empty.
Looks like our goose is cooked, our hash is slung, our fate is accomplished.
Let me guess where you get that from. Tell me something. What do you ever see in that guy anyway?
You made me laugh.
Valiant shakes his head. Now they are completely surrounded by Weasels. The situation looks bleak.
Well, do you prefer to die this way or that way?
Valiant jerks his thumb, indicating the direction behind them. Suddenly, there's a rubber-burning screech as Benny the Roadster arrives next to Valiant's hitchhiker-posed thumb.
Need a lift?
Valiant does a take.
Benny.
The Roadster looks back approvingly as Jessica climbs in with Eddie.
Mr. Valiant, you've made a vast improvement in your company you keep.
Benny blasts through a couple of Weasels. They swing back and forth like tavern doors, then topple. He takes a hard right into the next block, which is the Toon Arctic. He turns to the skies. His tires turn into skis. He slaloms back and forth between trees. The Weasels pursue on dog sled. Benny grabs a striped barber's pole, the North Pole, and slides it down. They land in the Toon Sahara. Benny crawls up large dune, his tongue hanging out of his radiator. He glances back at the Weasels who are mounted on camels, waving scimitars. When they reach the top of the sand dune, we see they are on a precipice of a bottomless chasm.
Look, the drawbridge. We're gonna make it.
I don't see any bridge.
That's because you gotta draw it first.
Benny takes a pencil hanging from a post lettered drawbridge. He works a pencil point to use a flash and draws a bridge. It's a rickety rope bridge. Using the pencil as a balancing pole, Benny starts to tiptoe across. The Weasels jump off their camels and start filing onto the bridge after them. When Benny finally reaches the other side, Valiant grabs the pencil from him and gets out of the car.
Hold on a second.
Eddie, come on.
But Valiant stands facing the Weasels, who are charging at him, swords raised. With a sly smile, Valiant holds up the eraser end of the pencil. This freezes the Weasels, but as Valiant starts to erase the rope support, the eraser breaks off and the pencil and falls down into the chasm. The Weasels wheeze with relief and advance for the kill. But the last second, Valiant takes the business end of the pencil and scribbles a handsaw. He grabs it by the handle and saws the rope. The bridge swings away, smacking the Weasels onto the opposite canyon wall. One by one, they slide off and disappear into the abyss. Valiant climbs back into Benny. The Roadster takes off again, making a skidding left turn to the main drag as they make their break into the Toontown Tunnel. Exterior, Toontown Tunnel. LA side, night. A 10-gallon drum is sitting by the side of the road under the Toontown sign. From in the tunnel, we hear the sound of Benny's engine coming closer. Now a foot comes out of the shadows and rests on the 10-gallon drum. As the sound of the Roadster gets very loud, the foot kicks the drum over, spilling a clear liquid across the road. New angle, the foot, belongs to Judge Doom. Doom smiles sadistically at the Roadster with Eddie and Jessica aboard, comes shooting out of the tunnel. When Benny hits the liquid, he starts to skid.
Uh-oh. Whoa! Look out!
His tires smoke, then disappear. It's a dip slick. Without tires, Benny spins out of control, finally ending up at the bushes roadside. Before Eddie and Jessica can make a move, they are surrounded by a horde of Weasels pointing at what looks like 100 guns at them.
Are you two all right?
Doom opens the Roadster's door and helps Jessica out. Valiant climbs out after her. The Weasels quickly relieve him of a tuned pistol.
These roads can be very treacherous at night, especially in a maniacal tuned vehicle.
That's the pot calling the kettle maniacal.
I've had enough of your insolence. Put him in my car. I think they'll enjoy attending our ribbon cutting at the Acme factory.
The Weasels prod Valiant and Jessica into Doom's Lincoln. A Weasel refers to Benny whimpering in the bushes.
Hey, boss, what about him?
He's not going anywhere. We'll send the mobile unit after him.
Doom climbs into the car and zooms off, Weasels jumping into the running boards. Benny crawls out of the bushes on his axles.
The boynin'! The boynin'!
He makes it down to the drainage ditch, dipping his tootsies one by one. There's a hiss as they hit the water, and the chemicals from the dip are extinguished.
Ah, yeah, that's better.
Now Benny hears the sound of another vehicle coming out of the Toontown Tunnel. He ducks down and peeks over the ditch to see Roger and the Packard come screeching out of the tunnel backwards. Maroon's Packard looks like the winner of a demolition derby. Benny stands and waves to him.
Roger!
Roger sees him and slams on the brakes, skidding the Packard into the Toontown sign.
Benny?
Benny hobbles over to the Packard. He pops his trunk and rubbages around. He comes out with a Toon bolt cutters. He clips Roger's cuffs off.
Doom's got your wife and Valiant. He took them to the Acme factory.
Let's go!
Benny nudges Roger to the passenger side.
Slide over, son. Looks like you've done enough driving for tonight.
Now the Toon Roadster gingerly gets behind the wheel of the Packard. He hits the gas and the Packard lurches down the road. Interior, Acme factory, night. Doom's car is parked inside. There are several other vehicles as well. There's a steamroller, a road grader, and a huge modified tanker truck. It's mounted with a 1,000-gallon vat, and the contents of which are being stirred by a motorized unit. All of the vehicles are marked with a large green 4-leaf clover logo. Valiant and Jessica are held at gunpoint by a couple of Weasels, while several others are busy jackhammering at the brick wall at the far end of the factory. Doom pulls on his rubber gloves, turns to the Weasels.
Frisk them. See if they have the will.
Several Weasels rush for the opportunity to frisk Jessica. The head weasel slaps the others away. Then, wheezing lasciviously, he turns to the task. He starts to move his hands over her body when Jessica stomps her heel on his feet.
Get your hands off me, you little rodent.
The weasel hops away angrily and quickly frisks Valiant. He turns to Doom and shakes his head.
No matter. I don't expect the will to show up in the next 15 minutes. By then, Cloverleaf will own Toontown quite legally.
So you're Cloverleaf?
No one person is Cloverleaf. We're a vast company with diverse interests. Gasoline, tires, automobiles.
At the brick wall, the jackhammering has stopped. A weasel plucks one brick out of the wall. Toon light beams through. He reaches into the hole of the wall and comes out holding a bunch of Toon bananas. Wheezing wickedly, he passes them to his compatriots. They devour the bananas, throwing the peels helter-skelter. Valiant turns his attention from the brick wall back to Doom.
Come on, Doom. What would a company like that want with Toontown?
It wasn't Toontown they wanted. It was my idea of how to put the land to better use.
Doom goes to the truck and starts turning on valves and starts compressors. Doom, continuing.
In fact, they thought my concept so brilliant that they offered me the dictatorship of transportation. I've accepted. Bring me Mr. Valiant's gun.
The weasel trots over and delivers Valiant's Toon 38. Doom inspects it. He reads an engraving on the frame.
Thanks for getting me out of the Hooskow. Yosemite Sam. How sweet.
Doom throws the gun on the ground. He pushes back a long lever on the truck, letting loose a tiny spurt of fluid from the discharge valve. The gun disappears.
Dip?
That's right. Enough to dip Toontown off the face of the earth.
Exterior, Acme factory. Roger and Benny have been watching the proceedings through a window. They turn to each other, stunned.
Dip Toontown? We gotta do something.
Roger scurries back to the Packard hidden outside the gates. He opens Valiant's black bag and comes out holding Eddie's real pistol. Benny comes tenderfooting up.
Roger, what are you gonna do with that gun?
I'm gonna save them, of course. You go for help. Find Dolores at the terminal bar. She'll know what to do.
Well, all right.
Reluctantly, Benny gets behind the wheel of the Packard.
But you be careful now with that gun. This ain't no cartoon.
Benny pulls away. Roger turns with determination and zips back to the window. Interior factory. Doom pulls the tarp off the truck, revealing a modified water cannon.
You're sick, Doom. Where do people like you come from?
Never mind where I come from. Just watch where I'm going.
Don't you think anyone's gonna notice Toontown's gone?
They won't care. Who's going to miss some ridiculous talking mice when they can have the future?
Exterior, back of factory. Roger is trying to jimmy open a window using his whole body for leverage. He finally pops the window open. Gun drawn, he climbs over the sill and falls headfirst. Interior bathroom. Roger splashes up into a toilet bowl in the Acme washroom. He bobs up. He drains the water out of the pistol barrel and peeks over the bowl. He gets a determined look in his eye.
It's time to make my move.
Roger starts to climb out of the toilet. He reaches for something to grab onto. Unwittingly, he gets the toilet chain hanging from the tank above. As he pulls himself out, the toilet flushes. Roger has only a moment to register a dumbfounded expression before he is sucked down the john. In the factory, Doom continues expansively.
Right here where we're standing will be the cornerstone of my idea, the Cloverleaf, an elegant cement structure that intertwines freeways.
The hell's a freeway?
A freeway, Mr. Valiant, is 8 lanes of asphalt running uninterrupted from LA to Pasadena, Pasadena to Hollywood, Hollywood to Santa Monica. Someday, everyone will be in cars, driving happily nonstop from one end of LA basin to another.
That's what this is all about? Tell me, who's going to use your lousy freeway? You got the red car, the best public transportation in the country.
Not for long. We're retiring the red cars. People will drive, Mr. Valiant, because they'll have to. And when they drive, they'll have to buy our cars, our tires, our gasoline.
Why do you bother to call it a freeway?
Doom steps into their faces. Behind him, several weasels are fashioning a noose.
As a nice ring. Too bad you two won't be around to enjoy it.
Suddenly, Roger explodes out of the drainage gate in the floor. His entrance sends the weasels flying. Roger lands on his feet, James Cagney-like, leveling his gun on Judge Doom.
Get him up, all of you, or I let the judge have it.
Roger, darling.
Yes, it's me, my dearest. I'd embrace you, but first I have to take care of some unfinished business.
Put that gun down, you bucktooth fool.
Go ahead. Give me an excuse to pump you full of holes, pump you full of lead. How am I doing, Eddie?
You're real good, Raj, but maybe you better let me take over.
Not before I satisfy my sense of moral outrage.
Milking the moment, he shifts the gun from one hand to another. He circles Doom, poking and prodding him with the gun.
Do you think you could just get away with this? Ha! We Toons may be idiotic, but we're not stupid.
Point of view overhead. We look down on the proceedings from high in the rafters, pull back to reveal we're watching from the point of view of Voltaire, who's perched on the top of the inventory rack. Voltaire cleans his fingernails, casually.
Yes, justice, Judge Doom. The real meaning of the word probably hits you like a ton of bricks.
Voltaire calmly nudges an Acme ton of bricks off the shelf. Close, Roger. He never sees it coming. Smash! The bricks land on his head and bury him. The only thing we can see of Roger in his hand is his hand with the gun in it.
Well, this is turning out better than I thought.
Doom picks up the gun. The weasels drag Roger out from under the bricks. Big, bright red stars are circling his head.
Look! Stars! Ready when you are, Raoul.
Valiant shakes his head, but Jessica starts to laugh.
I've missed you, Roger.
Tie the lovebirds together.
The weasels twirl tune rope around Roger and Jessica like a cocoon. They hook them on a power winch, then hit a button and raise Roger and Jessica until they're suspended 15 feet above the floor, right in the path of the dipmobile. Doom hands Valiant's gun to the head weasel.
Let him watch his Toon friends get dipped, then shoot him.
Doom turns and starts to walk away. Angle on ground. He steps on a Toon banana peel and goes flat on his keister. The weasels, always quick with a laugh, break up at their boss's misfortune. The one guarding Eddie is so overcome with laughter that he's slapping his thigh with his gun hand. Valiant sees his opportunity. He starts to make a move toward the distracted weasel and almost gets his hand on the gun when...
Watch out, you idiot! He's going for the gun!
The weasel turns at the last second. Sticking the barrel up against Valiant's nose, Doom gets to his feet. He glowers at the weasels and knocks him on the head with the gavel of his cane. Doom stalks out of the room. The weasels scramble to positions on the dipmobile. One fires up the engine. The street cleaner brushes start to turn. The vehicle starts to creep forward. Another weasel climbs into the turret. He puts Roger and Jessica in the crosshairs of the cannon. Beads of sweat break out on Valiant's face. The weasel, wheezing with evil glee, starts to press his finger on the trigger.
You guys think this is real funny, don't you? Eddie, do something!
At the last second, Eddie shouts at the weasel.
Hey!
The weasel turns to him.
Before you pull the trigger, I want you to know a little something about the guy you're about to dip.
Suddenly, Eddie breaks into the Looney Tunes song, the song Roger had sung in the bar. The silly voice that comes out of his mouth surprises everybody, especially Roger.
His name is Roger Rabbit. He's got a crazy habit.
Valiant starts skulking across the floor. It's a cross between Groucho Marx and a Chuck Berry duck walk.
He likes to sing and dance and yuck, so brighten up and smile, you schmuck.
Valiant starts hoo-hooing, slapping himself in the forehead. Now the weasels start giggling. They've never seen a human do this before.
Now my name is Eddie V. I'm Looney too, you'll see.
Valiant flips into a handstand and starts walking on his hands.
I walk with my hands and I shake with my feet.
He offers his foot to a weasel who shakes it. The others howl. Eddie flips upright and grabs a stick of Acme dynamite.
I think dynamite is swell to eat.
Eddie takes a bite of Toon dynamite and acts like he's savoring it. The spectacle of this human doing this is too much to bear. Now the weasels are rolling on the ground, holding their sides.
He's lost his mind.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Keep it up, Eddie! You're killing him! You're slaying him! You're knocking him dead!
Roger means it. The Weasles are laughing so hard they're giving themselves heart attacks. Valiant spins around on the floor like a clock dial gone berserk. One by one, the Weasels keel over, dead. Opaque Weasel spirits leave their bodies with wings and harps and float heavenward, still laughing. Voltaire, armed at the scene below, grabs a brick and flaps toward the ceiling. He throws the brick through the skylight and flies out.
Doom! Doom!
On the dipmobile, the Weasels on the turret collapses onto the trigger. The unmanned dip cannon starts spraying as the arm sweeps slowly back and forth like an automatic lung sprinkler. Valiant hitches a ride on the last ascending Weasel spirit, letting it hoist him to the top of the truck. As he moves the Weasel's body off the trigger. Voltaire crashes back through the skylight and swoops down on Eddie. He sinks his talons into Eddie's back and lifts him into the air. As Valiant is being pulled skyward, he reaches for something along the wall of inventory. He grabs a handful of Acme small pills and jams a couple down the buzzard's mouth. Instantly, Voltaire starts to shriek. As he gets smaller, he can no longer hold Eddie up. They both descend as Voltaire shrinks to the size of a chick. The sprayer is swinging back towards Roger and Jessica. At the last second, Valiant reaches up and blocks it. It swings back the other way. As Valiant scrambles up the vehicle to turn it off, Voltaire has found a box of Acme Big Pills. He pecks into it, and after a beat, explodes out of the box. He is now 3 times the size he was before. Voltaire flaps in for the kill. Valiant reaches the turret just in time to swing the cannon around. The spray of dip blasts one of Voltaire's wings off. He spins earthward like a flaming Messerschmitt, finally landing in the dip vat and dissolving into a black pool. Doom arrives just in time to see his pet bird dissolved. Angrily, he steps into the giant Acme mousetrap. He uses a piece of Acme cheese to spring it, catapulting him through the air. Just as Valiant is about to turn off the dip cannon, Doom lands on the truck. He knocks Eddie off the turret with a flying tackle. They both hit the floor. Doom gets up, leaving Eddie stunned. He sprints to where the Weasel has dropped Eddie's pistol. Finally, Eddie shakes it off. He sees Doom about to reach the gun. He straps on a pair of Acme rocket skates, fires them up, and shoots across the floor. He knocks Doom into the stack of Acme boxes, toppling the whole shelf down on top of him. As the sprayer swings back toward Roger and Jessica, they have their last moment together.
Roger, I want you to know that I love you. I've loved you more than any woman has ever loved a rabbit.
Be comforted in the knowledge that as we face the grim Dipper, our paint will be commingled for eternity.
They both close their eyes, waiting for the end, but it never comes. The truck runs up on some boxes, and the sprayer arm swings back the other way. Doom grabs the Acme slingshot, loads an Acme boulder, and fires it at Valiant. Blam! It whacks Valiant on the head, laying him out cold in front of the Cloverfield steamroller. Doom climbs into the steamroller as it starts up. He puts it into gear and starts it rolling toward Valiant. Valiant comes around to see the huge roller bearing down on him. At the last second, Valiant rolls out of the way and grabs an Acme boxing glove. It accordions out and smashes Doom in the face. He goes flying out of the driver's seat, turning the wheel as he falls. The steamroller starts to turn in circles. Valiant jumps Doom, but Doom is stronger. He throws Valiant off and starts whacking him with his fist. He pummels Valiant backward toward the drum of the steamroller. Valiant grabs the nearest thing for defense. It's a can of Acme spray put adhesive. He whips it up in front of his face. Doom puts his fist right through it, covering his hand with glue. He smiles at Valiant and hauls off again. Valiant ducks. Doom's fist strikes the top of the drum of the steamroller. Frantically, he tries to pull it off, but it stays put. The roller starts to struck down his fist and under.
No!
Jessica and Roger avert their eyes as the steamroller crushes Doom. Valiant breathes a sigh of relief. He starts for the dip truck as the cannon swings back toward Roger and Jessica, but neither of them are watching the cannon. Their eyes are fixed on the ground behind the steamroller. Angle on ground. There isn't a messy pile of blood and guts you'd expect to see if a human got run over. Instead, we see that Judge Doom's remains have rolled out like a flat pancake. After a beat, the edge curls up with a creak, Now the whole shape peels off the floor and wobbles to its feet, revealing Doom is a toon.
Eddie, look out!
Valiant turns to see Doom stick his flattened thumb into his mouth. He blows, re-inflating himself. His glasses crack and fall off. Then his prosthetic eyeballs pop out. His teeth shatter and fall out of his mouth like china. Underneath his latex mask, we can see his toon mouth and his evil red toon eyes.
Holy shit, he's a toon!
Surprised?
Not really. Only a toon can think of something as goofy as that freeway idea.
Doom takes the black rubber gloves off, revealing red hands with long fingernails. He makes his fist into an anvil and advances on Valiant.
Is that so? Well, we'll see who's the goofy one.
Blam! From 10 feet away, he smashes Valiant in a bone-crushing punch. Valiant staggers backward.
By the way, when I killed your brother, Teddy, I used to talk just like this!
Doom speaks in a toony, high-pitched squeak. Valiant recognizes it now.
You?
That's right! Me!
Blam! Doom hammers Valiant again. He's defenseless against Doom's superhuman strength. Blam! Valiant goes sprawling to the ground. Now Doom's hand turns to a buzzsaw. He goes to administer the coup de grace.
Now, Eddie's gonna be Daddy, just like Teddy!
With his last ounce of strength, Valiant grabs the Acme boxing glove. He pops it. The glove extends across the room, punching the release lever on the dip truck. Close, valve. A flood of dip gushes out of the valve and rolls toward Doom like a wave. Doom screams as a torrent hits him with a crash, but there's no escape for him this time. The flood of liquid envelops him at the ankles. He dissolves into it like a melting candle. The dipmobile continues forward inexorably. The arm is swinging towards Roger and Jessica. It gets closer and closer. Valiant tries to get to the truck, but it's too late. The cannon has reached them. Close, Roger and Jessica. They close their eyes, preparing to meet their maker, but nothing happens. The spray of the cannon suddenly peters out. It dries up in a harmless drip as the tank has completely emptied. Valiant gets to the controls of the power winch. He hoists Roger and Jessica up out of the way. The dipmobile passes harmlessly underneath and smashes through the brick wall. Toontown is revealed in all its splendor. It's a bucolic setting. A rainbow shares the blue sky with a smiling sun. Fawns and butterflies, chipmunks and flowers watch curiously as the dip truck rolls past. Suddenly, it's lifted off the ground. We see it's resting on top of a toon's giant head. This giant plucks the truck off of its head, regards it, and pops it into his mouth. Valiant lowers Roger and Jessica to the ground. We hear police sirens approach. When Valiant unties them, Jessica turns and exclaims.
I think you're muted.
My hero.
Then she hugs Roger passionately. Valiant can only shrug. Through the wall, toons start coming in. They look around at the scene, bewildered, then gather around Doom's robe, mask, and shoes lying in the puddle of dip. There's a reddish slick floating on top. Valiant wanders over and joins them.
Hi-ho, the Doom is dead.
Angle on door. Dolores, Lieutenant Santino, and several other cops rush in, guns drawn. Dolores runs to Eddie and puts her arms around him. Santino looks down at the remains on the floor.
What the hell is that?
Doom.
Jesus Christ. That was the judge?
Valiant takes the paint chip out of his pocket. He puts it up against the red slime on the robe. It's a match.
That was the murderer of Marvin Acme, Maroon, and my brother.
Dolores looks down at the front of Valiant's shirt. A dark stain is reappearing.
Eddie, we better get you to the hospital. You're bleeding.
That's not blood, it's ink. That goof Acme squirted me with some the other day. Why it's coming through now, I don't know.
That's because it's disappearing, reappearing ink. It shows up 3 days later, gives you enough time to get away from the victim so he doesn't punch you in the nose. Great gag.
Yeah.
I'll treat you to a new shirt. After all, you did save Toontown.
Problem is, without Marvin's will, the land still goes to Cloverfield.
That's right. If only we knew what happened to that will.
Valiant looks up from his shirt.
Say, Roger, you remember the love letter you wrote your wife at the Ink and Paint Club?
Yeah?
I think you ought to read it to her.
Good idea.
He reaches in his pocket, pulls out the paper, and clears his throat.
Dear Jessie, how do I love thee? Let me count the I, Marvin Acme, of sound mind and body. Hey!
Close paper. The disappearing, reappearing ink is coming up over Roger's scribbling.
Keep reading.
Hey, it's the will! I, Marvin Acme, of sound mind and body, do hereby bequeath in perpetuity the property known as Toontown to those lovable characters.
Pan the Toon crowd who are listening to the reading of the will. It is a gallery of recognizable faces, everyone from Mickey to Bugs, Yankee Doodle and Yosemite Sam, Dumbo to Dopey, Bambi to Droopy, Tweety Bird to Tinkerbell. They're all there.
Who have given me and the rest of humanity so much mirth and merriment, the Toons!
The Toon crowd erupts with a cheer. Hats go into the air and they descend on Roger, slapping his back. Roger breaks away from the crowd and joins Eddie. Two-shot, Eddie and Roger. They stand side by side, looking out over Toontown.
Well, Eddie, you still think I'm a patsy, a simp, a chump?
Eddie wipes the spit off of his face.
Nah, kid. You're a real hero.
I guess I am at that. Cigar?
Roger holds out a large stogie.
Why not?
Roger lights Eddie's and one for himself.
By the way, Roger, you were right about your wife. She's a good lady. I'm glad you got her back.
And I'm glad you got your sense of humor back. Think you'll keep it?
Only time will tell.
Valiant puffs on the cigar.
It's a pretty good cigar. Where'd you get it?
From this box here.
Valiant glances down. The box says, Acme Exploding Cigars. He looks to Roger, but it's too late. Kaboom! Kaboom! Their cigars blow up in classic Toon tradition, blackening both their faces. Roger starts laughing. Eddie stares at Roger for a moment, and he starts laughing too. They throw their heads back and howl. The other Toons join in. Pretty soon, the whole factory is shaking with laughter. A Toon cop dressed in a blue uniform and a hat with his back to us tries to restore order in the Acme factory. As soon as he talks, we recognize a stutter. It's Porky Pig.
Okay. Move along. There's nothing to see here. That's all, folks. I like the sound of that. That's all, folks.
Then, savoring the phrase, Porky stutters out the famous sign-off. Cartoon music up, Iris out. The end.
You know, our whole world is a great world after all.